Yo, my dudes, what's happening? Sorry for the slow startup there. A few technical difficulties just getting warmed up. This is my first YouTube live stream as I'm getting used to having the double monitor setup. When we're looking at a lot of comments and things over here. Yeah, looks like we've got a good number of people in here. I should probably have no idea how many people are going to be in the room. Check out a few things. This is, again, first YouTube stream, so figuring some things out. But what we're going to be doing today is, first of all, just getting, so just saying hi. Hey, dudes. I used to stream a lot on Twitch. I was streaming a lot of gaming. Streamed a lot of some artwork over there, really, this is just going to be to say hello and get to talk to you guys and give you a chance to ask me questions and whatnot. Wow, yeah, a lot of people in. Hey, Ink Alpha, Green Tree, Charles Toefield. Good to see you guys. Thanks for stopping in. While I'm chatting with you, I've got some artwork that I'm going to be working on. I'll give you a quick sneak peek of what that's going to look like. So we're going to be doing... the page on the right is a new page that I'm adding to the Creed Reimaginary comic that's coming out pretty soon. I'm going to be launching an Indiegogo campaign sometime this month. As keeping it very non-committal on that launch date, but that has to do more with the publisher that I'm partnering with than myself. So I can't really say too much more about that other than that I got to get it done. I got to get a lot of artwork done for it. So we're going to be doing a little bit of painting, some coloring on that. I want to talk a little bit about just recent events, things that are going on in my art business, what's going on with that. I want to get to know you guys a little bit more. And oh man, it looks like Manuel Herrera, he's saying good night already. So it looks like I got him a little too late. Sorry about that. Different time zones for everybody all over the world, but welcome. Come on in. So Happy New Year, everyone. It's still, geez, this is, it's the 8th, 9th now. Time she flies. So New Year's, the weirdest New Year's I've ever experienced, pretty much keeping it chill, staying in, playing with Christmas toys, let's just say. I do generally take a bit of time every December. So if you're wondering about schedule and things, people ask me about my schedule all the time, I don't know why. But if you're wondering about like how I tend to manage my annual schedule, usually most game studios, they shut down for the last 2 weeks of the year, sometimes more. Hey, I know a lot of people at Riot Games that'll just take all of December off. They kind of allow that as long as you're still reliable and getting your work done. I don't work there. I'm a contractor, but they are one of our big clients that we work with. So when the clients say, hey, we're all off, then hey, we're all off as well. So we usually take like 2 to 3 weeks off. Normally, my wife and I will do some traveling. The last few years, we've gone to Hawaii, one of my favorite places in the world to visit. So this year, because of everything with travel restrictions, I had to go to somewhere a little bit more local. So we drove out to Sedona, Arizona. Beautiful. Stepped through a couple of vortexes, did a little bit of minor time travel, did not disrupt the timeline, thank goodness. But I did have some revelations that occurred in these most I don't know what you'd call the mysterious of places in the world. Sedona, California, or no, Sedona, Arizona. Look it up. There's some beautiful red rock type of the topography, the mountainscapes, beautiful out there. So I had a chance to do that. Did a lot of trying to not work during that period of time, just chilling. We've had some very exciting, new art challenges. If you guys don't know about it, if you're new to the channel, or if you don't know much about what we do here, every month we do a concept art challenge on the Aquatic Moon Discord channel. So you can head on over there and you can see some of the entries. This month we're designing World of Warcraft weapons. So very excited to see what people do with that. I should be more full screen while I'm talking. We'll talk about the art later. So yeah, we're designing some Warcraft weapons this month. Before that, we did Monster Hunter designs. Those were really cool. So, just keeping very busy. I wish that I could be posting more. I've been feeling really bad about like not being able to post more. because I'm stockpiling loads and loads of Creed artwork for the big Indiegogo promotion. Welcome everybody coming in, just stepping in. It looks like we got 119 people. Wow, that's not intimidating at all. Yeah, as I said, I'm not used to live streaming, so I'm gonna goof. I'm gonna make some mistakes as I'm getting used to working with StreamYard. It's totally new for me, but and as I get used to just streaming and not leaving too much dead air, because I tend to stumble a lot. I edit my videos like crazy, so you're going to get real-time Trent, and that is going to be a little bit jarring for some people who are going to go, why don't you talk as fast as you do in your videos? Yeah, that's a Metal Gear Solid 2 poster. That is a Yoji Shinkawa masterpiece. I love the loose brushiness of his work. Let's see, we've got, you know what? Hey, I can post your comments up here. Hey, what's up, Trent? How's the stream? It's so far, I don't know. I for my part, it's going okay, but it's me just talking to myself. It's a weird feeling because I'm like talking to myself, but knowing that people are listening. Art of Gordo says he's here for the stumbles. Well, you're in for a treat, buddy, because I got plenty of them. I got my coffee, which I've been trying to quit, but I realize I can't do this without coffee. Let's see. It's Jolo says, live Trent. No way. Yes way, buddy. We're doing it. This is part of, one of it is like, I talk to you guys all the time about like just kind of running headlong into the things that you know, might be intimidating, and putting yourself out there. That's one of the things I just got to do. And live streaming is something that I lost some comfortability with, and I need to get back to it. So just doing it more, I'll feel more comfortable. Cosmic Coyote says, hey, Trent, did you agree with Goaty 2020? What did you think of the Final Fantasy VII remake? Okay, I'll start with the easy question first. Final Fantasy VII remake delivers that nostalgia that I was craving. Delivers that like fleshed out, going through town, like feeling like it's a lived in world. There were some inconsistencies though, and this question should be something I should make a whole video about it. There are some inconsistencies with some of the architectural designs that I was like, I don't know why that truck is there. It doesn't seem to fit the theme of the rest of the kind of, it's kind of a steampunk world, And so there were some parts that felt a little out of place, but for the most part, I really enjoyed Final Fantasy VII. Are you talking, when you say Goaty 2020, I assume you're talking about The Last of Us Part 2, which had these moments when I was playing it, when I was like, this is good. Like I had experiences with Last of Us 2 where it was like AI that I had not really seen anything like that done before, where you shoot a character and somebody else goes, oh my God, they got Todd or whatever. And it's like each NPC, each enemy had a name. And, I was like, while I was playing it, it felt a little bit like it had the Metal Gear vibes. And I was like, oh man, I want so bad for like a Metal Gear 6 on that level of polish. Do you know what I'm saying? The comments are coming in pretty rapidly here. There's no way I can cover everybody's questions. Agree with making a video about it and talking about the art. Yeah. Could do that. I would love to do, one of the things I would love to do is like, I'd love to do some gaming streams. I'd love to actually talk about, some of the games while I'm playing them, and then also do some like paintings as if you're doing concept art for that game. That would be a really cool challenge. I don't know though. I got my hands full with so many other things. YouTube is just sort of like my fourth job, if you know what I'm saying. Martin Quintero says, hi Trent, I must work on a card game based on Space Empires. Any recommendations from where to get reference beyond the classic references? Of course, beyond the classics for a Space Empire. Space Empire? Do you mean like from Flash Gordon? What? Give me an example of a Space Empire. Let's see. Hey Trent, Diablo is my favorite game series of all time, but I'm curious, what was your favorite game to work on? This is a tricky question because there's different reasons to enjoy working on a game. My favorite game that I have worked on is obviously Aikida, the Scrap Hunter. I programmed it, I designed it, I did all the artwork for it, and it's free on Steam. You can go and get that right now. If somebody's got the link, please drop that into the chat. So Aikida was probably like the most rewarding because I did everything on it. I only hired people to do like a couple of animations, very minor. And again, like I said, I had to learn to program to do it. So that one was the most rewarding. Aikida was great. My favorite game that I've worked on that was the most like, in the forefront of people's eyes, I'd say. So you're going to laugh. Final Fight Streetwise was probably, well, one, I got to voice act the main character. You probably don't even know that about me. A lot of people don't know that I was a voice actor. I played Kyle Travers. He was a combination of Solid Snake and Spike Spiegel. He was always looking for his bro, Cody. And basically just, aping David Hayter's voice acting style. But the cool thing was I got to voice act alongside of some of the voice actors that worked on Metal Gear Solid 3. So that was kind of neat. Not that I got to meet them. It was recorded separately. Anyway, so I got to do storyboards, all of the concept. I was the only concept artist on the whole game. So everything I designed went in the game. That is a rare and fortuitous situation. Felt like a small indie dev team, which I loved. And when I started on that team, the studio had took us all out to dinner, and he was straight up like, "Hey everybody, this is Trent. He's going to be our new concept artist, and we're so glad to have him on board." And it was almost like hugs. Like, you're part of, literally, when they say, "Hey, you're part of the family," I actually felt that a bit when I was working at Capcom, and I really liked working for that kind of a size of team and that kind of a tight-knit group. And I'm still friends with a lot of the people from that dev team. As far as the project that I can still really play, because I would Final Fight Streetwise, I want to do a playthrough of that, by the way. Final Fight Streetwise, I want to do a live stream of that, and I don't want to play through the whole thing. It would be a lot of fun because there's a lot of laughs. It's very jokey. If you don't know much about it, it's kind of like cornball humor. It's sort of like a parody of a Guy Ritchie film. But my favorite game that I worked on was probably Diablo 3 because it's so much fun to co-op. I played through all of Diablo 3 with my wife. Super chat from Benjamin Loudley. Oh, thanks, bro. You didn't even ask me to say anything, but thank you so much. So kind of you. Here we go. Mistress Varflock. Whoa, a live stream. Yes, doing the live stream today. Schnick Schnack fan. In the debate about violence in the video games, I feel like the dev side is often ignored. I have had some discussion with artists in having a massive mental boom because they have to look at gore. Gosh, I didn't catch the first part of your comment, Schnick Schnack. But on the debate of violence in video games, I feel like working, I assume you're talking about from the dev side, from having to work on it. I believe, if I were developing a game where the client was saying, "Hey, you've got to design all this, kind of gruesome, gory stuff," the client's always going to be right, but you do always, as the artist, you do always have the option, the opportunity to say, "Hey, I don't think this is right for me." But if you need the job and you need the money, it's not always your option to be able to do so. I would advise in those situations, know what you're stepping into, know the kind of game that you're jumping into before you go and apply even. Man, we got a lot more people in here. We're up to 213 people. Welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you are here. It is super awkward when no one shows up, which hasn't happened yet. No, my first live streams on Twitch, I'd sit there for 10 minutes. So I was a little intimidated to do a YouTube live stream. So I did a little test run on Twitch again for the first time in a while, and everybody that stopped by over there was very encouraging. So it went pretty well. I did find that it's not as easy for me to talk and draw at the same time. So, that's why I might just reserve these for chatting and talking with you guys. The question came in from Bara. Bara says, do you still have an idea for a Twilight Monk universe video game and or animated show? I would love to say more, but all I can tell you is that if you haven't read it yet, the Twilight Monk Secrets of Kung Fuglio is a illustrated novel, if you haven't heard of it. It is additional writing credits go to Chris Krubeck, who was the writer on a indie game called Tokyo Dark. And what a pleasure to work with that guy. It was so much fun. I wrote the first draft of, I'd say 90% of the story. He came in, added a lot of extra stuff. We did weekly back and forth on that for like a year and a half on this book. And I brought in some of the Aquatic Moon team to do some maps. And when I say illustrated novel, I mean, it's got artwork all throughout, buddy. And my buddy read this to his, I think his daughter is like 8 or 9. And she was like saying, hey, I want to read more Twilight Monk. She was more interested. He was trying to get her to like read Harry Potter, Goblet of Fire. And he's like, dude, she just kept saying, I want to know what happens to Raz and Rin. So that's what a glowing endorsement, you know, lots of little panels here and there. There's over 70 illustrations. You can get that on in paperback, or if you're just digital, you can get the digital edition, ebook edition over on Amazon. Look it up. It's called Twilight Monk, Secrets of Kung Fuglio. As far as a new animated film coming out, yeah, George Lucas he decided he's coming out of retirement to make the new Twilight. No, he's not. Nothing going on. I need more sales on the books, man. Need more sales on the books before I can get any kind of other sort of a deal. Although I have several prototypes of games started, and several people have been approaching me recently about working on them. So there may be something to do with that coming soon. For now, my next big project that I'm working on is, one second, this bad boy right here. So this is the Creed Reimaginary graphic novel, but it's going to be broken apart into 2 books. I'll tell you more about that as I'm working on the artwork. So Setsuko Alia says, any 2021 tips on starting a webtoon or comic? I know it to be very competitive, but this seems like a very good time to get serious about it, since this is where I am headed. You know, Setsuko, I'm glad you asked this question. It's just by the way, I'm going to preface this by saying I am by no means a expert or authority on selling, you know, comic books or web comics. When I was doing Twilight Monk, it was exhausting. It was a lot of work, and I did it on the side. But getting back into doing comics now, I would say that probably one of the things that a lot of comic book artists are realizing now are that you need a social media presence. Like, the social media presence is almost more important than the book itself in a weird way. It's like, if people don't know about it, it almost doesn't matter how good it is. Although you can get word of mouth by just making great product. It's like making the great product is an obvious essential. You got to have a great story. You got to have engaging moments, engaging characters, great dialogue, really awesome covers, great promo art. And you have to be, you know, posting about, you know, YouTube, either YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Rumble, any of these new ones that are popping up as well. Get on them. One of the things people ask me about all the time is like, you know, how do I build my YouTube channel? It's like, well, they ask me like, how did I do it? And how did I get to be, you know, so freaking famous? No, how did I get up to like 250,000 subs, which isn't even a lot by YouTube standards, but for an art channel, I think it's doing all right. It's doing good. It's doing all right. People ask me, how did I get up that high? Because I got a lot of friends that are like really talented. I'd say, you know, in some cases better artists than me, but they're, you know, still hovering around the 5,000 mark because it's so competitive. The thing is like, jump into new platforms. There's new platforms popping up all the time. Do a little bit of research. I banked on YouTube because I saw what was happening with commentators in video games. I was like, these guys just play video games and they comment on them like sports commentators. And I was like, and at the time, what was funny is like my girlfriend had a crush on some dude named like Day 9 or something, some like famous StarCraft commentator. And I was like, why? He just talks about the game that I wasn't working on StarCraft, but it was like, not the guy who works on the thing, but the guy who commentates on it. And I was like, I should start a YouTube channel. Anyway. I'm cracking open unendorsed soda beverage here, not sponsored. So my advice is in 2021, build a social media presence with an audience that likes and loves the type of content that you're making. One of the big challenges that I have is that this is an art channel. You guys are most of you that are watching art channels, all right? Or you're artists. You're interested in art channels. You're interested in having discussion about how to develop your career, how to make a mark, and how to step up your game, build some skills, and build the quality of your work, and get noticed, and build more popular channels, and basically establish yourself. I think that's mostly what I tend to focus on when I'm creating content for you guys. And so, like, I know that a lot of you aren't exactly like buying comic books or buying, illustrated novels. So, like, I know that it's like, but I do know that you guys are interested in tutorials. So I tend to make a lot of products that are focused on, career development and really in-depth content that serves the market that I tend to, speak to. I guess you'd say this is a weird thing to talk about it like this, but what I'm trying to say is some people make YouTube content that's about like pop culture conversation, like, hey, let's talk about the new, Star Wars movie, or let's talk about the new, whatever is going on in the comic book arena. Like, if you have a YouTube channel that's about comic books, you'll know that the people who are tuning in want to talk about and purchase and support comic books. So that's my advice in 2021. That is a long time to answer Setsuko Alia's question, but hopefully that answers your questions. So let's see. Oh, this is a good one. My sketchbook 340 says, Trunkanuga, what would you say about starting a YouTube and illustration semi-career in one's 40s? I think it's the best time. By the time you're 40, it's like you probably have a few things figured out about life. You've probably got a few things figured out about, one, you probably have some things set in motion as far as like steady income, place to live, handling your finances. You might be a parent at that age. And so, like, there are a lot of things that you bring to the table that's unique. Like, for instance, I lived through a couple of recessions. I'm not worried about another recession. I know how to handle that. I set some things up so that I don't have to be as stressed about consistent income as I might. When you're in your early 20s, it's like, well, I just want to get a job. You could have some business experience by the time you're 40. So you got advantages, I think, in starting a little bit later. And in fact, I think a lot of novelists don't really even start writing novels until their 50s. So, and the reason for that is because, it's like other things get sorted out. Your kids are already in college, whatever, I mean, if you're, in your 40s, it might be the fact that you're, it might be the case that you're already, got some other things taken care of, paid off student loans, all that kind of stuff. Sam Reeves says, sounds like you're answering my question with, sorry, these questions, if you can't tell, like, they're scrolling by extraordinarily fast. So I can't often, see all of them. So it looks like, Sam Reeves, here we go. His previous question was, I'll be 50 in a few days. What advice would you have for someone older who's trying to break in, especially what obstacles I might come across because of my age? Sam, I would say, in your 50s, don't try to get into concept art for games. This is my somewhat limited view. When I say that, I just mean, I can tell you about a guy that I met. There was this guy that I met at Blizzard he was like close to 50, and they hired him. They saw him as like an expert because he already had managerial experience, and he was an Imagineer for Disney for a long time. This dude had some stories, bro. Like, I loved hanging out with him. And, he was there for 5 years. He came in and he's like, I'm only going to be here 5 years. And the reason is because he lined up some stock options and it had a 5-year timeline on it. And he was very smart to do that at Activision, by the way, right when they got acquired. And so, he did that for 5 years. And then he bought a cabin out in the woods in the middle of nowhere where he was just going to do paintings every day for the rest of his life, and then drive him down to the downtown. I should reach out to him. I don't know how he's doing. But his idea was just to sell his original paintings. And he was like, he was an older fellow. He had just had a lot of things figured out. His kids were already grown out, And so, but I would say, like, your better bet is, if you're going to get into the art field, go independent. You don't have to, let me move my camera there. There we go. You don't have to go and work for somebody else. In fact, one of the things that I've been trying to tune a lot more of my content towards is like, I want you guys to know you don't need a corporation or a company to set you up with opportunities. You can build your own comic. You can build your own t-shirt business. You can build your own art business. You can build your own art education business, join the art education industry, like my buddy Proco, and like what, a lot of what I'm doing as well. It's like, there's a lot of ways that you can make a living if you have something that people want. And it doesn't matter what age you are or even what country you live in. Like the internet is a free, it's the Wild West still, it's a free open market. So if you're making great content, you're making great product, also when you're older, you're less, I gotta be careful what I say, because I don't want to imply that young people don't have this, but it's more common for older people to be more comfortable, like picking up that book to learn how a business works, for instance. I've met a lot of, in my mind, I'm including myself in this. When I was younger, I was very stubborn about just like, no, the world's supposed to work this way. And like, I just kind of like, I wouldn't pick up a book on how to market, for instance, the way that I would now. I pick them up in a heartbeat. I listen to audiobooks about marketing and business development. Well, I'm a real fun guy to talk to about that stuff. Let's talk about business of making art. But here's a good question. Yeah, this kind of goes in line with that. Ink Alpha. Hey, Trent, do you think that the U.S. has the best opportunities for working in the game industry as an artist? I'm from India and still in college. I was thinking about moving to the U.S. for a job. I only know what things are like in the United States. So, there may be people who are going to disagree with me on this, but I believe that right now what we're seeing with everything going on, we're seeing that a lot of big companies are realizing what I had realized 10 years ago when I started my art house, which is that you don't have to have a lot of your artists and your creative development people, in-house. You can work with artists who are remote, as long as they have personal responsibility, handle their business well, professionally, they have secure data, so that they're not worried about, non-disclosures leaking. And that was one of my big concerns for a long time, because we were working on like games like Overwatch, and it's like, if we're working on something for Overwatch and that, if I'm doing a live stream and I accidentally thumb through a folder and you guys see like a screenshot and you're like, oh my God, they're making a Blizzard World theme park based, World of Warcraft and Overwatch. Wait, they did release that, right? Oh, yeah, they did. That was like 2 years ago. And so like, I was always very worried about that kind of a thing. But if you're showing that you can be professional and reliable and you know your craft very well, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, as long as you can communicate well and you're reliable. But oftentimes that, any relationship, you get more opportunities when you build trust with partners and things like that. So yeah, wow, lots of comments coming in. Hopefully that answers the question. I would say that there's also a lot of art outsourcing companies in India that you can work for to get your feet wet and get used to what it's even like to do it, and then reach out in your free time to indie game developers in the US. Or there's actually, I find that these days we're seeing incredible games coming out from all over the world. Back in the 90s, it was mostly Japan and the US and the UK. You had like Rare was making, games that were way awesome. And of course, Nintendo and your Japanese companies like Sony and all that. Now it's like all over the world. You're seeing like Metro, developed in Russia. Amazing. Just absolutely gorgeous. The technology, like what we're seeing. And also, I think that you're seeing that these big publishers, they look at it and they're mostly looking at like, how can we get really high quality at an affordable price? Well, that's the benefit of a free market. It puts a lot of stress on the individual artists to create the best content possible, but simultaneously, they're competing with people who are also putting in a lot of hard work, and it's more affordable. I hire people from all over the world. I've got an artist that's working out of Vienna right now, Austria. I've got an artist that's working out of, oh my gosh, I was recently working with a guy out of Slovenia, working with a girl from France, working with a guy from China, working with a guy. Like there's just people all over the world that you can be working with, and a lot of these big companies are realizing that. So let's go to more. Here we go. This is a good question, I think. KDP for comics and illustrated novels? Yes, no. Amazon ain't gonna like this. That should tell you already. I get the most readers through Comixology for digital, but I actually think that, so there's two markets for comics right now. There's actually multiple, but what's kind of happened is that you have the younger generation tends to, and by the way, I'm going to say some things, and please argue with me. Please, if I'm wrong, if I'm way out on left field on this, let me know. But I found that from my experience of doing comics on the side the last couple of years, what I found was that you've got a younger audience who wants comics for free through web, and that might be through, they might be okay with a subscription like in Comixology or the Marvel app or whatever for their digital stories. And they read this same audience is one that appreciates manga. And yet at the same time, while I'm saying this, there are comic book fans specifically, I can imagine several people that I know from the US who are going, nah, dude, like I want like print edition, physical copy only, because there's only this many number of printed editions. And I got that rare cover. And you know what I'm saying? Like there are a good number of people out there who are collectors and they want standard comic book format, full color production quality product, that they bought off of like Indiegogo direct from the creator. And that's the direction I've chosen to go, because I can tell you about my webtoon and webcomic experience. And it was not fun. And it was not, I don't want to say miserable, but there were times when it was like mostly just criticism, like how, like they kind of want you to do a page a day of a webcomic in full color. And they might very well still just go, no, I'm not going to buy it. So you might be ending up doing something like that I did it for 2 years. So I'm coming out of the trenches, speaking of this, and feeling like it really burned my butt a little bit, enough that I was like, well, there's just no money in it. And I just went back to doing video game stuff because the pay was better. And I found myself feeling more appreciated by my customers, which were the game studios that I was working with, which is when I went to work on League of Legends on redesigning the Summoner's Rift map. So, and hey, it's not like that was a bad situation to migrate over to. But what I would say as far as like giving you advice on webcomics, it's like if you're in that age group and or if you're in that market and you're like watching and reading a lot of webtoons and webcomics and what people buy, and model yourself after the successful ones, find out what they're doing. If they're on a shared network like webcomics.com or whatever, maybe somebody in the chat can help them out and like point to some places where there are actually successful, profitable webcomics. But from my experience, webcomics tend to be, I don't know if you watched my video recently where I was just basically talking about how if it's free, people don't tend to want to generously donate to give you money for it if they can just get it for free from you. And in fact, usually the people who want the webcomic, they tend to be very critical of the content as well. So it can be just very hard to not become embittered about it. So I tend to think I'd rather make a premium product. Like my friend Ethan Van Sciver, I think he's done a very good job of understanding like what the collectible comic book market wants. He makes a book called Cyberfrog, and I got it in the mail, and it's like chromium cover. It's like one of the highest quality comic books I've ever seen. So, and it comes with like stickers, and like it just feels like not just did you support the creator, but it feels like you got something that's a little treasure. And people tend to not value movies when they're on Netflix as much as they value a movie that they go to a theater to see, in my opinion, and from what I've seen from the blowback that you get when you're making free content and people just tend to demand more and more. I'm gonna check out some of the other comments here. Yeah, you can publish physical versions with KDP and they have to pay for the digital, so why? I've just found that standing out. Okay, so when you're going onto the Amazon Marketplace, if you check out, like you can head over there right now and look up another promo. You can look up this book and you can see that it's got, I don't know, 4 or 5 reviews. Okay, so reviews are everything when it comes to self-publishing. And so like you have to have the commitment of, and this is why it ties into the previous question of like, hey, you got to have a social media presence as well, because you need to get those reviews and you need to get readers who are committed to leaving a review. And there were probably about 20 people who said, yeah, give me an early copy. I offered early copies to people who would review it on Amazon. Out of the 20 people that I sent it to, only 4 or 5 of them actually left a review. So getting reviews, that determines whether or not you're going to succeed on KDP, because that's such a flooded market. It seems easy, but it's like you really have to get press. You have to get, some support behind it. It really helps if you've already got a name. If you've worked with like Simon & Schuster or, bigger publisher, or, if you've worked for one of the big publishing houses, if you got a name in it, maybe you got a better chance. But like, look at my channel, like I got a pretty good presence, but it's still really tough to sell a book in that way for like a couple of bucks. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know whether or not that's the best route to go. My strategy has been KDP for the last 2 years, and it hasn't been the best way to distribute my books. Many people don't even know that I have books. Kindle, what does KDP mean? It's the Kindle something publishing, direct publishing, Kindle direct publishing, KDP.com. I think it's KDP.com. I don't know. It might be Amazon. I always Google Amazon KDP. You can like look up how to upload your manuscript, and you like put a price point on it, and then your book goes up. But that's only part of it. Your first week determines whether or not your book will be a success. If you don't get like 10 reviews in the first week, you're probably not going to do amazing. I can tell you the Twilight Monk book, The Secrets of Kung Fuglio, sells about 2 copies a day over on Amazon Kindle. That's about where that's at. Now, admittedly, the way that I've been able to at least break even on that book was through other means. So I always think of projects from a multi-pronged approach. So what I mean by that is that I also sell hardcovers for hardcore fans over on my Amazon or on my eBay store. And those will come with like a sketch edition, and that actually covers the cost of, paying the editor, paying for the software, paying for the printing process, paying for the the editorial, and I had to pay Chris Krubeck because he's expensive. No, he's actually he's awesome about helping me out with making sure that the book was great at a reasonable price. So we got a really good product there. Mitchell says, highly recommends Trent's tutorials, by the way. Yeah, thanks, Mitchell, sorry. Yeah, here we go. Pedro says you can make ads for your book targeting people that like your content and that are a lookalike. Yeah. All right, you can. It's so when you start digging into this, you begin to very quickly understand that you're basically going to be spending an hour of every day learning how to market and advertise. I'm too lazy for that stuff. I just want to make cool stuff. So speaking of which, I'm going to switch on over to, let's switch over to the page. Here we go. One more question. Bara says, where can I read the original Twilight Monk webcomic? So those are available on Comixology. You can get them there. Or you can buy them on my Gumroad channel. The link is below all of my videos. So what we're doing here today, because I promised you guys a little bit of drawing, I don't guarantee that I'm going to be very productive. Okay, that's my disclaimer. I do not guarantee any productivity from me on any given day. I'm just kidding. We're going to be a little bit productive. We've done a lot of talking about the business end of publishing. Let's talk about making the actual content for a little bit. So what we have here is, so I inked this on paper. I wish I had the screenshots, but if you follow my Twitter, you've seen this. This is ink on paper. I've set it up to, you can kind of tell I'm using a Kureteka brush. It's it actually has ink in the brush itself. And it's a combination of that with the Staedtler pens that you saw me talk about in one of my recent videos as well. So I'm not, when you look at like Matt Martin's pages, his pages are, I mean, they're nuts. They're so, oh wait, hold on a second. I don't want that popping up the whole time. And also we're going to hide that. Okay. A little bit cleaner presentation there. Hold on a tick. We need to see the whole artwork here. There we go. Okay. So now that we're all on the same page. So my inks aren't as tight or clean as like Matt Martin's inks. Oh my gosh, on Snowman. Like that dude's, I think he converts it to vector lines. And I'm like, yeah, I want this. I want that grainy, like, that's that Yoji Shinkawa brush, bro. Like, yeah, look at that. I love that. But then, the thing is I also go in on my inks and I do stuff like this, where I'll just be like, yeah, just like that, nice tighter line on there, just like some of my points. If I feel like the brush was just a little sloppy, like I'll still go in and like tighten things up in the inks. And this is, by the way, this is set to multiply. This is nothing new. If you're using Sketchbook Pro, they have the same function, the same thing. And then because that's set to multiply, anything that I put underneath it, it's going to just like pass right through. So that's why that's there. The reason why I have the second page over here to the left, by the way, is because this is the next page, like almost immediately after that, right? So I gotta match the color. So I got my finger on the Option key. I'll just color dab right out of that. And then, make sure you're not on that line art layer, but bam. Did I already do some of this? I already did some of this. Look, what is this? Oh, I started filling in that guy's face. So what the next step is to make color flats. And that's probably all we're going to really have time to do. It's like, we're going to do some color flats. What that means is just like, if something's red, we're going to make it red. The whole thingy. That almost looks pink. I don't like that. It almost looks pink. Again, I want to thank you dudes for stopping by. I've been picking up, I found a comic book store nearby. It's called Nuclear Comics in Orange County. That's my comic book store, apparently. I'd never set foot in there before about a month or two. No, 2 months ago. A month and a half ago. And I picked up, let's see, man, I went through and it was like, picked up some Doctor Strange by Chris Bachalo. And my old buddy, Tim Townsend, who inked a Creed piece years and years ago when I was working for, my publisher at the time was Lightning Comics. And one of the things is like, I wasn't even sure that I wanted to do have anything to do with comics after my webcomic experience. But I got back into it because I started to see, well, for one, my friend Ethan, his campaign just blew up, and I started getting emails from people constantly going, dude, when are you just going to like pull the trigger? Just bring Creed back. Just bring Creed back, please. And they were like, it was literally just bombarding my email box in my social media accounts. And I couldn't fight it anymore. I was like, you know what? Okay. All right, fine. We'll give it a shot. And, because the reason I had stopped doing Creed years ago was just because I, got all these opportunities working in video games. When Capcom calls and was like, hey, we want you to work on some of the, these legendary brands. It's like, well, okay, I'm not going to turn that down. That would be pretty silly, especially considering I was coming off of my run at Marvel on Ghost Rider. And the last book that I had done for Creed was, at the time, was a little indie go. Well, it was, I'd say it was, I took a shot with Image Comics, basically, is what happened. And I wasn't too pleased with how that turned out. And it was like, well, I might as well just, go and work in video games, because I always loved video games. I always loved, the idea of running my own game studio. I always loved the idea of it. Of just making games for a living. But yeah, sounds like really fun. And at the time, there weren't many like concept artists working in games. This was 2003, 2002. There was only like a small handful. I don't like that this looks pink. I'm going to just add a little bit more red. Mark isn't the type of dude to wear a pink shirt. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just not his style. He's a 90s kid. So, and in the 90s, most dudes didn't wear pink shirts. So anyway, so I had just kind of put it all down because I was like, yeah, I guess comic books are just dunzo. And then, I kept hearing all these horror stories about people working in comics. I had like some really nasty experiences working in comics, and I don't even want to go into it too much, other than to just say, like, I was like, I think maybe I'll have a better chance of building a steady income working in games, getting employed and working in games. And so that's what I did. And I just found that I was pretty good at it. So I kept doing it. And then every time I tried to like kind of dip my toe back into working in comics again, it just didn't really work out, only I'd say like, I don't know if I should tell this story. So like about a year ago, I got a message from an old friend that worked at Marvel Comics. And he's like, hey, would you come back and do some covers maybe at Marvel Comics? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. But I was like, here's the thing though, I'm doing this YouTube channel. Is it cool if I post the artwork on my YouTube channel after like I said, that's kind of my criteria, like I gotta be able to post the artwork on my YouTube channel. And he was like, I just didn't even hear back from him. That was it. I was like, okay, so I guess I've made my choice. So because I'm a YouTuber, there's very little chance that I'll be working at Marvel anytime soon, and I just kind of have to be okay with that. I wouldn't turn it away, but at the same time, it was like, well, okay, I guess that I'm going to put all my eggs in the basket of, not all my eggs, but I'm going to put a lot of my efforts into building out my YouTube channel because I was doing pretty well from doing that. YouTube itself isn't the thing that is profitable necessarily, but it's certainly it's the other things that come with that, but anyways, so yeah, so now I'm trying to apply a lot of the things that I've learned about doing painting, digital art, applying all that to the process of doing a comic. And in fact, I got a vision for how I feel like comic books can be improved, how we can make better comics much faster. So for instance, most of my pages, I'm not really spending the 12 or 14 hours that I used to spend, but I feel like the quality is still really strong. And then I'm more connected now because I run an art house. I can actually bring in a lot of my team to help out. So hopefully this Creed book will do really well, and that'll give me the opportunity to bring on some of my Aquatic Moon team and continue to hire artists and create opportunities to build out the brands a little bit more. Because I'd love to keep a Creed series just ongoing. That would be really rad. I'd love to see Creed keep going, but I also want to bring back Twilight Monk and get the Twilight Monk comic going again. That would be really cool because I feel like I left it on a cliffhanger. Let's check in with the chat here. What do we got? Oh, we already covered Bara's question. Next question. I haven't been scrolling down. Here we go. We got a super chat, $5 from Sam Kelly. Oh, thank you, man, so much. So, hey, man, Sam says, I'm trying to transition from classical oil painting to illustration and comics. How do you think the industry is looking for comics? We've been talking a little bit about that, and great topic of discussion, by the way. Thank you for that, Sam. I believe actually that what we're seeing when we look at comic books, people expect a really high quality product. And in fact, this is something that a lot of comic book professionals are talking about these days. A lot of it has to do with that connection to the creator. I think having a social media presence is really key for the success of your books, for the success of your comic. I also think that having really high quality painted works will really help your work stand out. In fact, over the last few years, you can look at the comic book market and see that even Marvel's been adopting these really highly painted concept artists from video games. For a while, they were hiring, what's his name, Marko Djurjevic, really nice guy. It's one of the nicest artists I've ever met, by the way. And he was doing a lot of Marvel comics covers. This guy was like used to working in film as a concept artist, like just like super detailed painted works. And so the comic book industry is adopting that expected high level of detail and quality in the work. We really see it in the mainstream books. It's harder for the indie comic scene to get their hands on artists of that caliber because it can be expensive. But the good thing about that is if you're doing these incredibly highly painted works, you're going to find that other creators are going to want to hire you to make really hype looking covers because the cover is 80% of the sale. So have a hype cover, man. And if you're an artist, create hype covers, and you're going to find yourself, with a bit more work. So that's my take on it. As far as the business side, I also, I think, again, like, you need that social media presence. But if you're doing really hype paintings, I think there is bleed over. I think that there's people who really like painted art that are going to really like comics, and they might even pick up comics. Comics are a unique form of entertainment that people will think that I'm nuts saying this, but I actually think that we're on the verge of a whole new renaissance for comics, indie comics specifically, not necessarily the mainstream dudes, but there's a thing that the mainstream guys are not doing that the indies can do. And especially the indies who are coming out of the video game scene, guys like Eric Canetti, also a really great guy, pushing things that have not been done before in comics, into that arena. I think we saw a big movement of this with, guys like Cheeks Galloway. I'm going to just name drop everybody that I know. Let me tell you about some more of my famous friends who are innovators. No, but I think, seeing people doing a variety of things, not just the comic, but the art books and the posters and the prints, and using the money that they're making to make little animated shorts, and making action figures, and bringing it into the realm of other forms of entertainment. I think that's how we're going to see that resurgence. I think that also when more artists, younger artists, realize the freedom that you get doing your own comic and owning your own IP. I don't know that many, like, the big challenge. I watched an interview with Bobby Kotick, the CEO of Activision, and they were asking him, what's the hardest part? What's the hardest part about making games now? Like, what's the big challenge you're facing in 2021? And he said, finding and keeping talent. You know why? Well, the reason is because a lot of creators are realizing, I don't need a job where I'm going to have a boss telling me I can't be 5 minutes late in the morning. I don't need a job where they're going to tell me what to paint if I've got a vision for a thing that I want to do on my own. And I think not every artist has that desire or that dream, but I think that there's going to be a lot of people who are working in studios that are going to go, yeah, you know what? I'm going to make my own channel. I'm going to make my own content. I'm going to have my own audience. I'm going to make them happy. It just requires developing your business sense and wearing like 10 hats. But if you can do it, the reward is incredible. Like, most people have no idea, the things that I've created on the games that I've worked on, you wouldn't really know. Most people have no idea. But if there's a Creed thing made, you're going to know that I was involved. I'll be sure to put that in my contract. I'm pretty sure. Or if there's something based on Twilight Monk, if there's an animated show, you're going to know that I was involved. And so, like, that's the big difference. But I mean, maybe that's a luxury that not every artist can do, not every artist can achieve. And it certainly it requires the development of a social media presence and the ability to live stream while drawing at the same time. Like, I'm doing a good job today, actually. It's the color flats. Don't ask me to pencil on live stream. Don't ask me to write a script on live stream. But sure. Laying down color flats we can do. By the way, how's the stream going? You guys asked me that earlier. How's the stream going for you? Is this all right? I want to make sure that I'm giving you what you're asking for here. Just want to talk about Christmas break. Christmas break. I got myself a PlayStation 5. I was able to land a PS5. I'm super happy with it. Akapad says, Trent's early Creed work inspired Trial by Fire, now available on Indiegogo. Hey, man. Yes. Yeah, I've seen that. It looks cool. I think that's currently running, a campaign that's currently running. Also, I should mention one of the last days of picking up Snowman on Indiegogo as well. That's a book Snowman is a book that a friend of mine that I got my start with in high school, Matt Martin, he had gotten, or he's doing a Indiegogo campaign right now, and it's really good. It's some of the best work I've ever seen him do. If you like kind of horror and maybe even a little bit, it's a little gruesome. It's a little gruesome, but it's also super cool. And I did a cover for it. You can still get that. It's like, I think there's one more day on that you can pick that up. So I want to highly encourage you to go and pick that up, if only just to get my cover. Let him know, let all these Indiegogo guys know that they need Trek Kanuga covers, because I charge them an arm and a leg. It's how I make my living. Just kidding. That's not true. But let's see. What do we got here? So Anthony Frecco says, play Minecraft. I'm not looking for that level of success, bro. Let's see. This is a good question. I think I haven't read it yet. We're going to read it together. Jospehus Van Den Heaver says, which of your tutorials would you recommend for a starting comic artist on your Gumroad? If you're just getting started, I would highly recommend those easy art lessons. I'm going to switch this so that you can see me and, hey. So I would recommend the easy art lessons if you're just getting started. And it's like 1 through 25. I bundled them all together. But anyway, so I would recommend the easy art lessons 1 through 25. That's going to teach you the fundamentals of like perspective. It's the groundwork for everything else that I'm building things on. I'm trying to build a workshop focused on comic books. I want to make workshops breaking down the whole process of panel flow and like how to how to put a story together, how to tell that story, which visual cues to go with, like structurally, how do you view your entire book, like in the pagination, like for instance, how do you look at, how do you set up InDesign so that you can see all of your pages, next to each other, and which pages would be appropriate for a 2-page spread, and like, basically the nuts to bolts kind of like full process. I would love to do that. That's one of the things that I'm trying to put together over the next. My plan was to do it simultaneously to this and integrate a lot of my process for this particular book in that, but I found that proves to be difficult because it just needs to get done. And also, I'm doing restoration on this book for the Reimaginary Creed book. It's a restoration project. So it's not as efficient as doing like a full comic. So what I was thinking I would do is like put together a maybe 8 to 10 page comic, a unique, like brand new start to finish 10-page comic, and do the tutorial around that entire process from, inking it to, writing the story, to inking it, to, taking it even as far as going to set it up for print, like, the full treatment. So that's kind of my tentative plan. I shouldn't talk too much about my tentative plans because there are people on YouTube that are tuning into my channel to know what they're going to do next. Just kidding. There's somebody out there that does a unique tutorial. Other people are going to do the thing that you're doing, but the thing is like you always have your own unique voice that you're bringing to it. And so like it doesn't matter if somebody else does something similar. I say if you want to do a comic book tutorial, you should go and do that. People who buy mine are going to want my view and my opinion on things. So Art Sensei, lots of posts from them, from Art Sensei. It was awesome to catch your stream. Keep up the great work. Thank you for being such a great source of inspiration. Well, thank you for stopping by, Art Sensei. I see a lot of your comments, and I do appreciate that you always make the effort to leave supportive comments. I do appreciate it. I notice. By the way, yeah, I do read all of my comments, by the way, if you didn't know. I did those two. I'm looking for something that relates. I'm not sure what that's in regards to. Sorry, I'm just going through all the chat really quickly here. I don't read them as fast as I can post them. Here we go. Pew Cart. What do you think about Webtoons? It's a good platform for comics. Man, I guess Webtoon is like a web comics place. Like you can probably read a lot of web comics there. Yeah, I mean, if you want to get your start there and then just bring your audience over to your own thing, that's fine. But I would definitely say like you got a lot of competition and the consumers are not paying for any of it. So you're going to do stuff for free. That's what you're going to be doing for that. You're going to be doing stuff for free to get your feet wet, to develop your skills. You can always reprint that later, sure, but that audience, you'll have to like start over when you start charging for your content. And you have to start charging for your content because otherwise you're a broke artist, and that's not good for you or your mental stability or your family or providing for your family. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with doing anything for free anymore. I used to do, and I did a video about this, about bitterness. Don't do anything that'll make you bitter and angry and resentful towards your audience or yourself or your family. Okay. Because somebody could grab a soundbite out of that and I'll put that at the beginning of every one of my videos. Sam Kelly, thanks for the super chat. All right. A workshop on sequential comic art would be great for posing figures in the comic book work. How much do you lean on reference versus posing from imagination? Well, in this shot, that's completely from photo reference. No, I was lounging. I had to lounge pretty far back and twist my ankle in a weird way. When I was working at Marvel, I did a lot. So when I was working at Marvel on Muties, for instance, that book, I photographed every shot. I had a friend come over and I made her pose in every character's position. Every character in that whole book was drawn from a reference of a photo of somebody doing the similar pose to what you're seeing in the book. And that way, when an arm foreshortens or when, something like that happens, to visualize the space, you know what I mean? And that helped me out tremendously. Nowadays, I only do it if I'm really having a hard time, but there's methods of constructing a body around a stick figure that I cover in my easy art lessons, actually, that should help you out with that. Is this for real? Is that for real? $100? Is that 100 DKK? What are DKK? Star GNH. First of all, you're a huge inspiration for me, and I love your work. But I also want to know if when you're doing a landscape, do you also use 3-point perspective for it? Well, Star GNH. When I'm doing a landscape, I did this video about that, and I don't know if I can pull it up or not, but there's a video on, it's called Thumbnail Secrets on my YouTube channel. Could somebody do a search for that and maybe drop the link in there? Oh, Railed Troutman says I owe him. It means I owe him $100. I don't think that's true. But no, I think that you do need to do the 3-point perspective depending on what the needs of the shot are. So for instance, if it's something for where you've got to position characters in the distance, this is again something that I covered in my easy art lessons about perspective and characters in perspective, but not just characters, but everything. If you're drawing a building, if you're drawing a corridor, a hallway, you might have a 1-point perspective if you're looking down a corridor or a hallway. But if you're drawing a scene like a city or a landscape, if it's all organics, I don't usually. But if there's a building in that scene of all organics, I'm going to draw the 3-point perspective because I'm going to need to know how, a building is going to look like it's in the distance versus, how big it's going to be in the foreground. There are also layers of depth that you can use to kind of fake it, especially if you're doing something that's kind of like a whimsical feel or a horizon line where it just has, 3 layers of depth. But I would say that those end up just being values are going to be what's going to determine values and scale of objects. So if you have a tree in the foreground, then you got trees in the background, you're going to know how far you're looking into the distance. And that kind of creates a sense of depth. But generally speaking, if you're struggling with that, I would recommend doing a mock-up in a 3D program such as Blender. It's free. You can place objects and even do landscape, terrain, with very quick, like in a matter of a few minutes, you can build terrain in Blender and get an idea of what your mountains might look like, and like position the camera where you want it to be, and then just draw over that. Use that as a perspective. Why not? Hell yeah. You can even change the focal length. People always get, like tripped up on like, what's funny is when you start talking about perspective, people start to fight. And the funny thing is like, the easiest solution to that is just to build something really quickly in 3D using primitives like blocks or squares or cylinders, and then change your camera, focal length camera. And I inevitably somebody goes, well, how do I do a fisheye lens? Well, that's pretty easy to do if you got it all mocked up in 3D with primitives in Blender. For comic book work, generally, I'm not spending more than, I think, from pencils to inks to colors, not more than 10 hours per page. So I don't generally, unless I have to, but, I actually, I'll actually hire, I kind of cheat a little bit. I don't want to say it's cheating, but I use my team. Like I have people on my team that help me out with things like that. So for instance, Jenny, who, if you guys follow the Aquatic Moon Discord, you remember Jenny did that incredible dragon blacksmith. And I was so blown away by her colors that I was like, I got to get her to color some Creed stuff. I got to get her to color some the Twilight monk covers or something, And oh man, they're awesome. Check out my Twitter. I posted a couple of them yesterday, and check out the Creed page in the Aquatic Moon Discord if you want to see the other ones. But man, just blew my mind. She's so good. So yeah, I mean, sometimes getting a little bit of help from your team or from a buddy. We used to do this, Matt Martin and I, back when we were in high school. Sometimes, like I'd be like, oh man, I don't know how to draw a head at this angle or whatever. And he'd give it a shot, just like sketch over it real quick. And even though we were kind of rivals, we help each other out, and that challenge, because also getting shown up was like, oh man, I gotta do better. You know what I mean? So, sorry, you can't see when the chat is so big. Sorry about that, guys. Here we go. We have another super chat. I got hang on, I got another super chat here. I don't want to miss it. Nope, I don't think so. S4s says 100 is the magic number, though. I see that, but I don't know why I can't find it in the chat. Here we go. Hey, some professional perspective here. Mohammed Agoon says, and I'm sorry if I said that wrong. What do you think of using free drawing software like Autodesk Sketchbook Pro? I transformed from a classic painter to digital art. I think your colors are always kind of cold. Why? Oh, dude. Okay, so to answer the second part first, my eyes burn when I see too much red. It hurts. It's painful. I'm like that superhero from that 80s show. Whenever I see red, I like lose my powers and I can't draw. Which character was that? The Greatest American Hero? I don't remember, but anyway, I just remember when he'd be like running at 100 miles an hour and then he'd see a red sign and he'd like go flying into a building. I feel like that. If I see too much red, that happens to me. It just burns my retinas. So I have to paint my scenes in cool colors. And then if for instance, if I'm working for a client, I'll have to do like a thing where I paint it in all values, all grays, and then I use a gradient map. And this is what a gradient map does. Oh, hang on. I'll have to hide the comment to be able to show you. So this is what a gradient map does. I'm going to pull this trick out again. This is my party trick, dudes. Like this is the equivalent of a magic like card trick at a party, but for artists. Watch this. You scroll down here to gradient map. Watch this. Oh, well, that's all pink. But if you do something like this, look, bam. So what it does is it uses the values. So anything that's over here is going to be black, or anything that's black underneath on the lowest end of the value scale is going to be whatever color is here, and whatever is over here is going to be whatever's white on the value scale. So for instance, if I set this to white, literally, you're going to have a lot more white in there. And then if we move this, watch, you can like, so this is how I cheat to do reds. And already my eyes are killing me. It kind of looks orange on my second screen here, but I think I got to calibrate. But anyway, so that's how I do reds. And that's why all of my covers, oh my God, I can't do it. Oh, it's killing me. But if I do something like this and I switch that to blues, oh, that's dreamy. That's beautiful, man. Yeah, I like that. By the way, how's my microphone? Is it sounding okay? Because I'm keeping it. It's kind of far off to the side. I got my babushka. That's my babushka. How's that? Got the wolf man. All right. Thank you for tuning in to KTLA, whatever. Got my babushka on my microphone. So so that's the cool gradient map cheat that I use on like everything that I do. You could technically color things that way, because let's give away all of my secrets. I promise you guys I'll give away all of my secrets every video. Okay, how does that sound? No, I can't make that promise. But like, let's say that you wanted to have like a flesh tone. You can make that selection and then go down here to create that gradient map. And now guess what? I've got flesh tones in my gradient maps, my preset gradient maps. If you want these, by the way, you can get them. They're in my brush sets. And what that's nice about that is like, it's just looking at values. So if, for instance, like underneath, I had I also covered this in my recent video, my super secret, I think it's called my ultra secret watercolor techniques. I gave away all of my secrets, and I told my wife, I was like, I got to take this video down. It's going to put me out of a job. That means this video is probably going to get deleted too. So it's too much good. Give it away, all of my secrets. Anyway, the nice thing about all that, and I got it in my history. The nice thing about all that is if you don't like it or you want to change the color of something, you can easily do that just by deleting the gradient map. Boom, because it's all on another layer. So if you ever wondered why I sometimes get up to like 800 freaking layers, there you go. Well, those are all my secrets. That's how I do it. That's how I do it. All right, let's check with the chat a little bit. What do we got going on? Trent would be an awesome character voice. I am a character voice, man. That's right. Yeah. Played Otis in the Nova Colony show, man. Let's see, what's this one? I find it really hard to talk in front of a camera. How do you do it so easily? Coffee and honestly, it's not easy. I was really nervous. I'm always a little bit nervous before I hit the, go live button, but I didn't realize that it had already let people know in the chat that I had StreamYard spinning up, that I was like creating a broadcast, and the chat was starting to populate with comments like, technical difficulties, is it broken? And I was like, there's no backing out now. You got to do it. You got to do it. Oh, Anton Bachmat is here. What's up, brother? If you guys don't know, Anton is a guy that I worked with Aquatic Moon for a while. Anton does incredible prop design and environment concept art. Worked on some of the Fortnite stuff with us. Can I say that? Yeah, I can say that. Unfortunately, we can't show it, right, Anton? They told us no, you can't show it. No. That's how that goes. That's the downside of working for the man. We worked for the man. Let's see. Oh, Mitchell says beer. No, not today. And I'm more of a whiskey guy. I can't drink beer. You ready for the sob story of the century? Here we go. I can't eat bread. I can't eat cheese, and I can't eat wheat. So I can't drink beer. Sucks. Happened like when you turn 40, everything changes. And you're like, what the hell is this? This isn't fair. So yeah, that's, let's see. Muhammad Agun says, thanks a lot. Like a lot of artists, answering to my questions means a lot to me. Hey, no problem, man. Just trying to make sure that I give everybody a little bit of time if I can. I want to answer as many questions as I can. I'm trying to be productive, but I realize like I'd rather hang out a little bit. You know what I mean? This is always a problem. It's like as soon as I start streaming, as soon as I start drawing, I'm like, I want to draw. I want to get stuff done, but like here I got all of my pals, and now that Anton's here, I want to get Anton on a stream, but he says he doesn't. He's shy a little bit. No, he didn't say that. Maybe I can get him on a future video. We're going to do something more together, Anton. So sorry, just checking through the chat here. Oh, I was telling you guys about my PlayStation 5. I didn't get to tell you about my. Didn't get to tell you much about my PlayStation 5. I love this thing, man. Unfortunately, my productivity sunk. And it was a nightmare to get this thing. If you don't know, you can't even buy one. And I was so upset. It was like an exercise in futility. Every time I would try to order one from their website, whenever it would go live, I was signed up to like Wario64 on Twitter. That's not a bad strategy, by the way, because he'll tweet out like, oh yeah, PSN or Target or wherever has them right now. And so like I'd immediately click on the link and it would just freeze up. Every damn website would freeze up. So you can't even order it. You can't even check it out with one. And so one night I'm up until 2:30 in the morning, okay, talking to my buddy Matt Martin. I think we were playing GTA Online, the Cayo Perico heist, okay, making them millions, making that bank, scoping out the island, busting in, getting them gems. And I get the notification at 2:30 a.m., just about to go to sleep. And my heart's racing because I'd already been doing this for like months, trying to get the pre-order, couldn't go through. What happens is like you go to a website, and then like while you're trying to check out, the website crashes because all the scalpers are snapping them up. And so it just ends with like, tears and depression. It's like playing Dark Souls. It's that feeling of absolute and horrifying defeat. And this one night I'm playing GTA with my buddy Matt Martin and Cayo Perico heist, right? We finish it up, and then I'm about to log off. I'm like, yo, I gotta get going, man. It's like 2:30 a.m. I gotta get on. And I get that notification from, I think it was like PS5instock.com or whatever, one of these Twitter accounts that sends you notifications on your phone. And I click over to it, and guess what? I can't log into Target. Can't log in. Forgot your password, so I had to reset my password. Finally, I log in. It's the wrong one. It's the wrong account. Got the wrong address in there, and it's got the wrong credit card information. So by now, it's been 10 minutes has gone by. 10 minutes has gone by, and I'm trying to get my PS5. It's in my cart. I just can't check out. Trying so hard to get my PS5. It's good. It'll add to your cart, but it won't let you check out. And then, and I'm sitting there hitting refresh on the checkout button because it's been 25 minutes, and I'm just hitting refresh, and I'm going, no, please. And it was literally like in those movies when you see like, Doctor Who is like slamming against the ice for like 1,000 years, and then finally he's like the last one, and it's like the hammer just falls from exhaustion, and that's when the glass shatters. And guess what? That's what happened on my PS5. The checkout button shattered, not physically, but what it did do was it said suddenly switched from checkout to in my moment of exhaustion. I thought my eyes were deceiving me when it switched over to thank you for your purchase. And it stunned me. It stunned me so badly that I couldn't sleep. I kept double checking. Did I get the receipt? Did I get the email thing sent to me? Did it verify? And it's like, yeah, just pick it up at 8 a.m. at Target tomorrow. What? So I set my alarm. I got like 3.5 hours of sleep. I went out to Target. I walked in. There was nobody there. And I was like, there's no way. There's no way. This is like December 28th, I want to say. And I'm like, I walk in, nobody in the place at all. I go over to the you got to go to the pickup counter, or like the exchanges counter or whatever. It's not the traditional space. It's not the usual spot. And I go over there, and I just hand her the thing, and she's like, "Oh yeah, PS5." I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, she just walked off, came back with it, handed it to me, and I still couldn't believe it. I walk out. As I'm walking out, this lady walks by me and she goes, "Oh, they got PS5s in stock." I just smirked. I don't want her to know my pain. Nobody should have to know the pain that I'd gone through. And so like the joyous moment, that feeling you get when you finally beat a Dark Souls boss, that's literally what it felt like. I was, it's been like that for about a week and a half. I love this thing. The PS5 is really cool. It feels great. My Xbox Series X, I haven't really touched it much. And that's not a slam against Xbox. It's just that their launch wasn't as good. The PS5 comes with like the Astros Playroom or whatever. And it's like this really fun little platforming game that like shows off the rumble, and like it's got this the nostalgia feels of the old music. And if you guys have one, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, here we go. Luis Teles says, "Great work, Trent. Don't let the PS5 slow you down." Yeah, it's already too late, brother. I've already played all the way through Demon Souls, working on my second New Game Plus. I want to stream it, but I don't think that people want that. I don't know. Do you guys want to see me stream games, or you want to just see me draw and chat about art? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. But Louis says, "Do you have a roster of original characters in the back burner? You know, the stuff that you might eventually feature in a comic book or game?" Too much, brother. Just too much. It's overwhelming. Like, I really need this Creed book to do really well on Indiegogo, because all I want to do is tell these stories. Like, I've got, if you don't already know, I talked about it earlier in the stream, but this book has a sequel. This is just part one, and there's a second novel. This is an illustrated novel. I've shown you it before. Let me go full screen here. Let me do it. One more. I gotta sell my stuff here. But if you don't already know, this is the Secrets of Kung Fuglio. This is a illustrated novel. It's got over 70 illustrations in it. It was jam-packed. This is 50,000 words, appropriate for, you know, teens to young adults. And it's basically like part one of two. The next book is Return of the Ancients. And that one is going to be, I have a lot of artwork to do for that one, but that one's already written. It just needs artwork for it. So like that's coming out in the next month or two in the reader edition, but I got to do the art edition coming up. And so that's going to be probably my next thing right after Creed. But like, again, I need Creed to do really well, because I want to do just a lot of these. And if I can, I want to just start getting a lot more of these done a lot faster. Like what I anticipate, I better not say it. I always want to overpromise, but then I always find that I'll underdeliver if I do. So I'll just say that there are absolutely many more stories I want to do. There's a lot more I want to do with Twilight Monk, both as a comic and as a novel. There's a lot more I want to do. Like I want to do that, finish that second art book for Twilight Monk. We're developing some indie game prototype stuff for various different IPs, but basically the ones that I'm actively still developing on are Creed. Planning out the third book for Creed, and also planning out new stories for Twilight Monk and where that might go. So yeah, I need that book. You know what? There's no reason it shouldn't get $1 million. That's what Ethan's book got. I think there should be no reason why Creed can't do $1 million. It's all I'm asking for. It's all I need. That's all I need is $1 million. If Keanu can do it, why can't I? I have more YouTube subscribers than Keanu. It's not true. If he had a YouTube channel, how good do you think that would do? Like, I would love to see Keanu Reeves just do kind of like Zen Hour with Keanu, like once a week. And it would just be like meditations. It'd just be, you know, Keanu like sitting by the ocean. And I think it would still get 10 million subscribers in like a month. Everybody loves that guy. More questions. Let's see. Yeah, just a little bit of $1 million. Okay. Yeah, I'd settle for a little bit of $1 million too. I know what you're saying. For a comic book? Settle for $100. No, yeah, comic books. Yeah, tough business. Alex says, I'm working on a comic one-shot. I'm in the storyboarding process. I have a couple of ideas for comics. What should be my process from concept to print and onward? That's kind of why I want to do that workshop. I want to do a full-on like comic book workshop, like kind of walk you through that whole thing. Because first of all, I think you're on the right path if you're doing, storyboarding, because like what I used to do when I was in high school, the way I would do comics is that I would just draw awesome poses. Like Matt and some of my friends, like we'd just get together and be like, oh yeah, check out the sheet full of poses, my sketchbook full of poses. And then you'd like take those poses and you'd work them into the book, because it was like you wanted those awesome shots that like, sold the 2-page spreads and all that stuff. And then as I've gotten older, I've realized, no, you gotta start with the script, but you do have to have those key shots. So I do think it's a good idea to have storyboards and then put your pages together digitally and then transfer over your digital pages to paper so that you have original artwork that you can sell. Because as you know, having original artwork is, essential for a comic book to be profitable. It's an essential part of it. People buy original artwork, and it's something that's like makes it special if they own it. You know what I mean? Like to own that one of a kind original piece. So all of the pages that I'm adding now are done that way, right? I sketch everything out in storyboards. I start with a script. I don't leave a single line out or a single scene out. But I know that in the storyboarding process, what I'll do is sometimes I'll put it all up on the wall. The way I would do it for a while was I'd put it all up on the wall so that I could essentially evaluate the whole thing and go, oh, do I need like another scene here? Something missing? Maybe I need like, maybe I need like another 2-page spread here or something, like a real, a shot that's going to make somebody thumbing through it just go, oh yeah, I got to own this, man, something like that. Even though most of the time people are just buying from the cover or what the market kind of like what's popular, or what has momentum or what people are talking about, what's got some buzz, you know what I mean? For the most part. So, but still when somebody thumbs through it, it's like you still need to make a really exciting product that delivers. And so like, you still got to look at like how pages are looking next to each other and like the speed of the panels. Like if you have really tiny frames across a page, somebody's going to read those really fast. But if you got a big full page shot, like if it leads up to a big full page shot, it's going to feel like a crescendo. It's going to feel like bing, bang, ba-bam, ba-bam. And then pow, like Mike Mignola is a master of this. When you look at the way he does a lot of his pages, he'll do like, 5 or 6 panels on one page, tiny panels. And then he'll have the big payoff, like of Hellboy punching the Kraken, like right in the mandibles, or whatever they're called. The monstery creature, it will just be like, the full page shot of just an explosion. And that really delivers, you know what I mean? So that, like, I think that's why you got to like thumbnail everything out like the way they do storyboards for a film. Yeah. And I've been looking at the storyboards specifically for like Mad Max Fury Road. Ooh, what a movie. And all of that, they spent years on the storyboards before they even started filming, So figure out, like, when you're doing those thumbnails, you can figure out, well, what's a better camera angle for this shot, for instance, and how is it going to flow into the next panel and things like that. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Sorry, checking out a lot of the chat here. That's why I'm looking off to the side, because that's where I keep my second monitor with all the chat. Onaga Gaming says, what advice would you give me if I want to start to do dark art for games like Dark Souls and Creature Creations? Well, I got a creature design workshop. You could start there. Specifically, it's kind of like we cover exactly that topic. Generally speaking, you should be emulating what you're seeing. If you're asking that question, you should be seeing like the way that they're doing it in other things and trying to reach that level of detail and stylization. Try to match it. You know, you don't want to be, you know, doing something that's using bright, colorful colors and something like that, obviously, you know. So, you know, pick up something like, you know, the Dark Souls art books on Amazon and literally compare your work directly to that, if that's your goal, you know, if that's what you're aiming for. The biggest problem that most artists, the biggest mistake I'd say, and I've mentioned this, I've done several videos about the topic, but the biggest mistake that most artists make is that they don't match the art style of the game they're applying to. And that's a big problem, because you're not even going to get the interview. They're not going to think like, oh, this person can paint people really well, but we really need, you know, dark fantasy creatures, so I'm sure they can do it. No. There's no I'm sure they can do it going on. When they're looking at your portfolio, it's like you got to have stuff in there that looks like the thing that you're applying to. And that's true, especially with, you know, dark fantasy stuff. So we're coming up on almost done with our color flats here. And again, like we're trying to match this page here. Let's get rid of that. We're trying to match that page. So in terms of colors, put it there, and then let me zoom this one out. Yeah, so like, yeah, you know, we're getting close, you know. It's not going to be too hard to match that. I think there's good action in this page, good flow. I think I'm happy with it, like for the most part. The reason I added this scene, by the way, if you've read Creed Imaginary, you're wondering like, what's the difference? You know, what's Creed Reimaginary? It's basically, it's a reboot of the Creed series. This is going to be books 1 and 2. They're each going to be 48-page books. No, actually, I lied. The first book is 65 pages. The second book, I'm not sure yet, because I'm going in and adding all these action scenes. I was reading it and I was like, it's, you know, like Creed has always had a little bit of emo stuff in there. I mean, it's a comedy, it's an existential comedy, but there's a little bit of emo stuff in there. And I was like, man, you know, like I need those like just awesome shots of Creed getting his, busting out his claws and like fighting off these skeezicks. Like bam. And this page, I feel like delivers. I'm like, everything that I've been doing lately is about like, how can I really deliver on what people are expecting from the Creed series, you know? And Creed was about a teenage kid who goes off into a dream world to kind of escape his reality because his real life kind of stinks. And, you know, he's got this girl that she doesn't even know exists, all that, kind of the tropes, you know, of like a teenage kind of a story, you know, of like, but the character, he finds that he's empowered in this dream world. He can go to this dream world and he can make anything he wants there. But as he discovers, like, not everything that he creates is good. And so he incidentally, you know, a lot of his fears are manifested as well. And that's what these skeezicks are. They're basically that. And so like a big part of the story is him overcoming his fears. And so they're manifested into the physical. And so a lot of the things that he's facing in his real life are going to be obviously like manifested into these things as well. So that's why I think it's really important to have these really kick-ass action shots where he's just like, you know, claws bust out, let's rock. And then bam, you know, then there's a sequence of a few more added pages of him just, you know, kicking these things in the teeth, just wrecking the place. Pools of blood, pools, not as many pools of blood as you're going to find in Snowman, but still pools nonetheless. Checking on chat. Yeah, it was great to see Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk, by the way, and runs so much better on PS5, by the way. Andrew Taz says, any insight into Matt and Ethan's level of inks? Yeah, they're both working on 11 by 17, and they're both using the smallest micron pens. Like, I think they're using these Staedtlers. I don't know if you can see that. I think they're using these. to get that level of detail. I mean, these days, I don't know. You know, I'm not doing that because they're working with colorists. I got to like paint my pages. My next book, I'm probably going to do 11 by 17 as well, though. Pepsic the Legend says humble Trent. Yes, so humble. Roman Kenny. Hey man, how's it going? Looks good, Trent. Oh, thanks, bro. Thanks. Do Akihiko Yoshida have a big follower in the West concept art industry, or is it just you? I think I'm it. I think I'm Akihiko Yoshida's biggest fan in the US. No, man, he's pretty big here. I mean, his art books sell pretty well. I think, you know, since he's no longer working on Final Fantasy, I think he just does like contract gigs now and then. I think that those are the pieces that, you know, people still are aware of, but like most people aren't looking at the signature of the artist that's doing those, you know. Yeah, Trent doing reboots like the big comic companies. Are they doing reboots? Yeah, I kind of see it like Creed. This is Creed was written when I was 16 years old, which is when I created Creed, around the time that I first met Ethan. And that's why the character has a pet frog, because Ethan used to have pet frogs, and I thought it was like a really interesting, I know, a strange pet to have, but I was like, what if that frog turns into a dragon? You know, kind of like running with that idea. And as a lot of people, like my life experiences influenced the story of Creed. So the thing is, though, is that those books were written by a 16-year-old kid. And like, I think I can do better now, you know, after 20 some years. So especially after all the books that I've written and the games that I've worked on as a writer, after all the stories that I've consumed, like I would like to think that I can write a better story than what I could when I was 16. So I thought, hey, you know, great opportunity to just totally just blow it out of the water with a whole new take on it. Kind of like, I know some people hate reboots. It's like, well, what's the continuity then, you know? And sure, if you really dissect Omnichronos, which was the Creed collection, let's see if I have one. I got a squeaky chair. I don't have one right here, but if I were to really dissect if one were so inclined as to dig into the allegory of the of the Creed Omnichronos story, one might realize that it's a character who's experiencing his life through dreams, through like reliving experiences from his past through dreams. So faces shift and people shift, and it is meant to be a dream, but it was all a little bit too kind of off the cuff for my current taste. I would never write something so stream of consciousness anymore. And so like that's where Creed is a lot more structured now. And there's actually a beginning, middle, and end and a meaning to the story. Whereas when I was younger, a lot of times it was just funny things that somebody would say to me, or a funny scenario, or like an awesome page that I just really could have, like I wouldn't just see in the book. So nowadays it's a little bit more of like, where's this going? What's the point of the story? There's a lot to say in our current modern society. There's a lot more to say than what I might have thought I wanted to say when I was 16, which was really just about like girls and stuff. You know, I didn't really, when you're 16, it's like, that's what, you know, like there's music, girls, and art, and like, you know, games. And that's like what my characters were, that would be the focus of most of the characters' stories, you know. And now it's like, there's so much more to say just about people, behavior, human behavior. I've always been like fascinated by human behavior. Here's a good question. Captain Zoltan says, what are your thoughts on learning or grinding on 2D and 3D art at the same time? Is it too much, or should you focus on one? I actually think it's a great thing to dive into both at the same time. The reason being because your 3D is going to help improve your 2D. A lot of concept artists will actually implement both. So you could use ZBrush, for instance, and then render out a screenshot, paint over that. You got yourself a really beautiful looking concept. But you're going to be trapped doing that your whole life. If you start getting work doing it, they're going to expect you to be able to keep doing it. So don't use it as a cheat, but use it as a nice learning tool. I use 3D for perspective. And for a while, I hired somebody to just do like all of these structures for a location that I wanted to paint. And so I had all these like 3D structures there. You can't use them in a game because they're the poly counts are absurd, like they're huge, but really, really nice groundwork for doing some 3D paintings, or converting them to 2D, flattening them, like positioning the buildings, flatten the image, and then run it as a painting. But some people would say, it's not like, some purists are not going to like that. But, I'm in production art. I'm about making a final product that's exciting. That's what matters to me. I don't even barely consider myself an artist, if that makes sense. Probably. Really? Yeah. I don't. I'm not. I'm like, art is just a method that I use. Like, any more than I'm a linguist. I use words, but I'm not a linguist. And anyway, what I'm trying to say is, like, just use the tools to tell the stories that I want to tell, and that's kind of more of a storyteller. Let's see. I've seen a common technique that comic book artists use is using the select tool to color faster. Yeah, okay, so that's the part that I hadn't really gotten to yet, but check this out, dudes. So you remember how I was doing flats? Look at this. Looks pretty gross without the lines. But you know what's neat about this is, like, let's say that I want to change the color of the hair. I just go to that layer and I select it. Now that all of that hair is selected, and I can change the color like this, or whatever color I want. And I'll leave that as my selection mask. So now, and all those people who left, we're down to 260 viewers right now. Everybody else is going to miss out on the big secret sauce because I'm yapping about Keanu Reeves and stuff on my PS5. But check this out. So what I do when I'm making comic book colors is, like, I got all my flats and I just made all that selection of the hair. And now what you can do is you can go in with an airbrush. I create a new layer here. And I'll say, like, these are my flats. I'll label this flats. And then now that I've got all that selected, I go up to this layer above, and then I can go in with an airbrush. And, like, people will say, oh man, that's too slow. Well, really? Because, like, if I weren't on stream right now, I could do this in 5 minutes. And I've got all my flats layers, Bam. So yeah, man, that's one way to really quickly get results. You can also go in and, so let's say that I wanted to, like, change that, go back in here, go back to your flats layer, select all that. You can still select it as one big body. It's still one big object. I mean, there are other ways that you can do this. And I want to say, like, hey, you should find your way. You don't have to do it this way, and I did this on a video like 2 years ago for Sketchbook Pro. And somebody was like, man, if I did it your way, I'd get fired. I'm a comic book professional. And I was like, I get my pages done. I never spend more than 3 or 4 hours on painting my pages, painting them. And so, like, I'm not sweating that. Also, I'm getting the kind of results I want. When it comes to drawing comics, there's a lot of people who have, like, their own way to do it, and they get kind of upset. They get kind of upset if you tell them to do it any other way. So I'm not going to tell you to do it any other way. I'm telling you how I do it. And it's always evolving. Yeah, sure. I might find some way to do it faster in the future, but to me, this just works. So, yeah. The other nice thing is like, all this is under my line art layer. So if you wanted a little bit more color harmony, you could go here and go, like, color balance. And, I have it selected. I don't want a selection to do this. I want to do it across the whole thing. And let's say that you wanted to just add, like, a little bit of color, like, balance to the whole thing. So you get a little bit more, not that. Color balance, dude. And in your shadows, maybe you just want, like, a little bit more blue. Just like, and then all your colors, basically just think of it like you just mixed in a little bit more blue with everything across the whole page. The only danger with this is, like, flesh tones start to look pink. And so you'll have to render those out a little bit more. But the next thing that you would do here, by the way, if you're adding shadows, this is kind of how they do it on the Overwatch concept art style. So they'll take, like, a 25, 30% gray, and then they go in. This is set to multiply. And then you start to, because I got a little bit of that blue color balance layer on, it's gonna, this just is your, like, your shadows. This is, by the way, on a whole new layer. It's just that. If I turn everything else off, it's just that. Sorry, I got my hair on. So we're just painting in the grays on top of this, you know? Bing, bang, and a boom. That's how you do it, man. It's that easy. I've been doing this for 20 years, man. So that's how you comic book colors. That's how you comic book colors, guys. Okay, that's enough. Oh, man, I've been drawing. You can't even see it because of we got a lot of chats going on. Let's see. Afton Botix. Thank you for the super chat, brother. Appreciate that. I don't know what those little squiggly lines means. What is that? But I certainly appreciate it. I appreciate the squiggles, the 40 squiggles. Thank you. Let's see. Here we go. Marlon James says, hey, Trent, I can be a game artist if I study graphic design, a question mark, is the only career I can study in Columbia. You know, graphic design is important for learning things like user interface or icons and things like that, readability of your image. There's certainly benefits to learning some graphic design, I will say. But ultimately, like what you're going to want to do is get some chops with some Gumroad tutorials from some pros who are already working. You're going to want to learn the pipeline. It's one of the things that I try to do is like if you check out my workshops, my Gumroad workshops, it's a lot of tutorials on like what the actual process of game development is, like with sample tasks, and then it even has homework and things like that, so that you can like learn like, oh, so this is how much time I would be expected to work on this, and like this is how much, you know, how much of a level of detail I got to add, and like this is how many iterations I got to do, and all the things that are involved in the actual pipeline of developing games. You know, any kind of an art program is going to be beneficial to you as long as you're sticking to it. Just don't let yourself go deep into debt. You know, I'd highly recommend if it's a financial strain on you, it might be better to just try to get into like creating like content for mods and things like that. For I'm going to go full screen here. I'd recommend like, you know, getting into doing things like mods for games, like go to the Steam workshops, you know, and try to do some get involved in like how people are building assets for games so that you can get some experience doing that, because the graphic design stuff, it may end up being a distraction if it's too much. There's somebody out there who's going, oh no, dude, like graphic design is a more stated gig. And I don't know if that's true or not. I don't want to tell you to like hinge your decision on what I'm telling you, but I think that if you want to learn game design or game development art, concept art for games, you're going to have to either go to an educational resource that teaches that specific thing or get it online. And it may be expensive for you, Liv. I'm not sure. Junior Net says, what do you think of drawing a box? I like to draw boxes. I drew a bunch of boxes last month. I did the draw box challenge that I made. I was able to draw 230 boxes, I think, in 10 minutes. That's what I think of Drawbox. Let's see. We got, is that a super chat from the Powers That E? That's $2, man. Thank you, the Powers That E. I appreciate it, man. This is, by the way, these are my first super chats ever. I've never experienced a super chat, but they're living up to their name. I certainly appreciate the contributions. You guys are awesome. I'm surprised by it because it's like, hey, you can buy stuff from my Gumroad channel and you get like copies of my comics and things like that. So digital PDFs and stuff like that. So if you wanted to support me, that's a way that you can do it as well. I certainly appreciate the super chats too, though. It's like, this is new for me, but I'm super surprised and grateful. Thank you. It's kind of excellent, I'd say. Should I just do this now? Could I quit my job? Ethan tells me that he makes all of his bills are paid by doing live streams. We're going to have to find a lot of stuff to talk about. What kind of stuff do you guys think that I should talk about in the future? Afton Botix says, oh man, thanks for the super chat. I got 100 squigglies. Thanks, bro. Any tips to make skins for them for a game called Fanf? What is Fanf? Now you got me Googling. An old friend of mine was like, "Why are you always fact checking me?" And I'm like, "I'm not fact checking you. I'm looking up what you're talking about." Oh yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's. Okay. No, I want to be educated. I want to know what you're talking about. Hang on a second. I got some thoughts on Five Nights at Freddy's. First of all, from a business perspective, any game that players are streaming that you can do skins for, that's all I'm going to say is that's money, baby. That's because you're going to have pros who are going to go check out this skin. They'll sell it for you, man. It's like an affiliate program. They don't even get paid for it, but they'll be thrilled to get the skin that nobody else has. And that they're like, then they'll promote your thing. Now, I don't want to guarantee that, but I'm saying like if I were trying to, get into the biz, and if I were trying to make some money, I knew a guy who worked at Blizzard. And now the rumor was he used to do skins for Dota. Was it Dota? He did skins for one of those, games, one of those kind of MOBA type of games back in like 2010 or 2011. The rumor was that he quit his job because he was making more money doing skins for that he was making at Blizzard. Kind of makes you wonder, right? How are these companies? This is why Bobby Kotick is like, how do we keep talent? That's the big challenge that Activision Blizzard has this year. How do we keep and find talent? Because all this talent is realizing that they don't need to be necessarily employed to make good money. They can have freedom, financial freedom, creative freedom, their own audience, their own fans, their own followers, their own product, their own IPs. And that's something that I've always been about since I was 16. It was weird for me to be employed. I always found it was a little strangling. Don't get me wrong. I recommend it for people starting out their careers. I have so many friends in the industry, the game industry that I worked, and I'm so grateful for that and the experience, knowing what is expected and knowing how it's used, the content is used. Like my studio is very employable, and let me humble brag for a brief moment, if I may. We never run out of work because the people that we work with are usually pretty happy working with us because we give them what they need, what they're asking for, and because we know what they need, because we're not guessing and we're not telling them what they should need, So like that's the advantage of having spent, now 18 years working in the video game industry at studios. Well, I was at studios for the first 10 years. Super chat from Eddie Winkler for $5. Thanks, bro. I appreciate it. Awesome icon, man. First time watching your show. It's the first time making a show. I've never done a live chat. It's the first time doing it. But I've been a fan of yours for a long time. Love the comic creation tips. As a new creator myself, that's what I would like. You know what? I got some fun videos coming up the next month, by the way. And now I'm trying to organize all this because I don't know when my Creed Indiegogo campaign is going to launch. That's totally up to the publisher that I'm working with. But when it does, I have so many comic book related videos lined up, pre-recorded. And this whole live chat thing is really just kind of like getting my feet wet with it. Also, I'm going to be doing some more live chatting with, I want to have, eventually it'd be nice if I could get some other pros on here as well, get some, bring in some guests and things like that. We got more super chats here. Priscilla Muniz with $10. Thanks. Oh my God. What? Thank you. Wow. I'm so grateful. Priscilla says, as someone who sucks at computers and primarily do traditional art, what art program do you think is best to start on? This is a great question. I have a lot of videos about a program called Sketchbook Pro, and it's free to get started with. And you'll notice a lot of the tools look very familiar. It's pretty simple. It's straightforward if you're used to working with traditional materials. And then you can get your feet wet with working with layers and layer effects and layer types. But it's not like as intimidating as Photoshop. Photoshop is a little overwhelming for people because there's just so many buttons and icons and what does this do and what does that do? And that's one of the things actually that I'd like to do this year is break down like what tools are a painter really going to be using in Photoshop the most. But I want to do it as like this, I don't know how I want to do it actually, we'll figure it out later, but I want to do something like that to really just make it easier for people to get going with it. It shouldn't be intimidating. It should be exciting that Photoshop can do so much. But if you are just getting started with digital, coming from a traditional background, which by the way, great icon, love the image there, that's beautiful. I would say check out Sketchbook Pro to get your feet wet with it. And if you're really hooked on traditional mediums, do a trial for Corel Painter. I used to use Corel Painter and it simulates traditional mediums very, very well. Also consider Procreate on the iPad, but that's a little bit slower and it's more for like if you get really used to Procreate, it's hard to switch over to Photoshop. And if you start working at a game studio, you're going to have to work in Photoshop. People don't like it when I say that because a lot of their favorite Instagram artists or independent illustrators use Procreate, and it's great for that. But when you're working at a game studio, you have to use Photoshop. It's like a requirement. That's been, as I've asked many, many different people, what is the standard at studios like Riot or at Blizzard? And every time it comes back, like, yeah, it's Photoshop working on a Wacom Cintiq. That's like the standard. I got a $5 super chat from Eddie Winkler again. That being said, here's a shameless plug for my for my book Sovereign Wolf Clandestiny, now on Indiegogo. Let's take a look, shall we? It's not fact checking. This is like I said, my buddy used to, every time he'd say something, I'd Google it, and then and he'd be like, "Why are you always fact checking?" I'm not fact checking. Okay, so it's called it's actually called Sovereign Wolf. Sovereign, I can spell. Here we go. I'm going to pull it up on the screen here for a sec. Let's take a look. Oh, wait, I don't know how to do that. Give me a second while I figure things out. Okay, yes, sorry. Still getting used to StreamYard. Can you guys see this? Yeah, okay. I hope there's nothing in here that I'll regret showing. But let's take a look at the trailer. Dope. Welcome to Ridgewood. Anybody who wants me to voice act in their Indiegogo campaign, let me know. Nice music. Great art. Nice colors. Cool, you got a whole team together. Great video editing. This looks like After Effects. Hype. I like that it's short too. It's short and sweet, but it tells you what the mood is. This should do a lot better, man. Like, we got to get this up. Well, let's see how many days you got. 11 days. You still got time. Let's blow this one out of the water. Dude, it's nice. Nice book you got going there. I'll back it after I get off of the stream here, which should be any minute now. I don't tend to have I don't know if I could do more than a 2-hour stream. My buddy's like, hey, you got to come on and we're going to do like an 8-hour stream. 8 hours. I'm not even awake for 8 hours at a time. That's not true, but yeah. There we go. Wow, you didn't have to do that, but I appreciate it. Yeah, man. Well, it looks great, man. It's making comic books is a lot of work. It's a whole lot of work. And one of the things that I want to do, I want to keep the indie spirit alive. I want to help out creators who are really putting in that extra mile. When I'm talking about, doing some comic book related work, I'm not just talking about me doing comics for me. I'm talking about propping up the indie comic book scene. Right now, there is a big hole in the comic book scene. I see it. A lot of people see it. We need comics that don't stink. And this looks good, bro. So hopefully we can get you a few bucks on that campaign. I want to encourage everybody to go and check out Sovereign Wolf. Let's see, we got some more comments here. Yeah, see? Faxi says that looks pretty cool. Yeah, let's do it. Let's make it happen for Sovereign Wolf. Again, I want to remind you guys, check out Snowman. When you're on Indiegogo, check out Snowman. There's only 24 hours left. You can get my cover on the Snowman book as well. 24-hour stream. If you guys want to watch me sleep, no, I don't think so. I don't think so, man. Well, is there anything else you guys want to talk about? I actually am feeling like I should probably. Oh, you know what? I do have other stuff. We can save that. We'll save that for another time. Do you want me to save it, or do you want me to talk about it? Let's see. What do we got? Yeah, you know what? I got it. Billionaire Playboy. It's zillionaire, bro. I got that. I'm in the apple juice business. That's where I made my zillions, from the apple juice business. Canuga juice. Not kidding. I'm working out a deal right now. Still, I don't know if it's going to come through, but Andrew Taz says, Trent, make Ethan draw a 24-hour cover. I've got some special stuff lined up. If you guys are familiar with Ethan Van Sciver, we got some collabs coming up hopefully in the very near future. Ethan is like, he's like a unicorn, and I don't mean that in it's like he kind of has his own, he's got his own thing, his own schedule, his own thing that he does. And it's like, if you catch a moment, you can have like a magical moment in a meadow with the unicorn. But you can't always count on having that sighting, it's, but he's actually one of the reasons why I'm getting back to doing comic books, as Matt Martin and Ethan Van Sciver. These are guys that I started making comic books with when we were just kids. I mean, we were pretty tall, but we hadn't really established ourselves. We were just dreaming of someday being able to do something in art. And now Snowman is, if you check out his campaign, dude's like at 60,000 or something like that for a comic book. That was unheard of, back in the day. And Ethan's book, just like every time Ethan does a comic book, it makes over $1 million. So like it's insane where we're at now. And me, I got my, apple juice business. Could be a bazillion. It could be a cajillionaire. Is it cajillion? How many billions are in a cajillion? Does anybody know? Do you have tips for fighting or for comic fight scenes? Maybe comic portfolio stuff, or is it a good idea? Do not mix. I'm gonna say something. So again, half of my videos, people are gonna go, Trent's just wrong. But I'm gonna tell you something from my experience. Do not put comic book work in your video game portfolio. I don't know that that's what you were asking, but I should say it. If you want to do fight scenes, that's not concept art. So I'm assuming you're talking about making comic. Yeah, you said comic fight scenes. So let's talk about that. For comic book fight scenes, dude, you know what's really good? Sit down and watch a kung fu action movie. I do this all the time. I used to. Not anymore. Because I'm not drawing kung fu books. If you get me back to drawing kung fu books, I'll do this. Iron Monkey, I would sit and I would just do thumbnails. I'd freeze frame and I just do thumbnails of the characters, like going, and then like, how are they framing the shot? I pay attention to how they're framing the shot, like just in little doodles and thumbnails, like everything that you learn from my easy art lessons about drawing figures. Freeze the posing of the characters clashing, actually shifting their weight, turning their feet in the ground. Watch some anime, like and capture the energy of the posing that you're seeing in excellence. Find excellence and emulate that excellence, and then run it through the lens of your own mind and your own skills. And you got yourself a whole vocabulary of new ways that those don't have to go directly in your book in those poses. It's about the study, and separate your study time from your productivity time, from the time that you're actually making the product. When you're working on the book, is like, that's not study time, that's execution time. That's like when it's kind of like Bruce Lee. He would train that wooden thing that he'd do, and it'd spin. You guys know what I'm talking about. And then when he was in the fight, he was like water. Like all of that training impacted the moment when he was in the fight. And so like, that's how you have to train your mind to think. The unholy coalition of EVS comics, Trent Apple Juice, and your boys breakfast burritos. Does your boy Zach have breakfast burritos? I don't know about that. Let's see. Oh, look at this question, Trent. What really is concept art? Everybody should know this by now. The difference between concept art and illustration. I have a video about it. You can watch that here on my YouTube channel. And it's basically concept. What really is concept art? So when you're at a game studio, you'll have executives who they can't paint. You'll have directors who are like, I got a vision. I'm like, okay, what does that vision look like? They're like, I don't know. So like, you got to make sense of these descriptions and give a visual representation of that to the development team, sometimes non-artists, that also 3D modelers can build models off of. And that may sound very complex, but when you've worked in game development, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's essentially like you're going to need turnarounds, you're going to need call outs, you're going to need, but you're going to need to do a lot of iterations. And different studios are different ways too, and it's always changing. It's like when I started making concept art, I just do a bunch of paintings and they'd build the game around my paintings. And then I went to Blizzard and I learned what concept art really is, where it's like, game designer needs 10 towers, or he needs a tower. Let's say the game designer needs a tower. You get a description of that tower and what it does and its function, or that monster, and what that monster does, its function. Oh, it rams at the player, but then it does this, defensive technique, because designers think about how the player interacts with everything. And your job is to think about the context of the world to go, okay, what kind of a monster would live in this environment? Was it a swamp? Is there a lot of moisture? Is there a lot of other dangers? Is it being hunted all the time? Your job is to think about all those things. And you have to create this design that meets all that criteria while simultaneously knocking their socks off in the meeting when you're showing it to them, so that they go, oh, that looks like a way cooler monster. Unfortunately, you get a lot of times as a concept artist, you end up in a situation where people are evaluating the quality of the artwork more than they're evaluating the quality of the design itself. And that ends up being a little bit of disheartening. And that's why a lot of concept artists end up feeling exhausted and burned out and feeling unappreciated and self-doubting. And the damage that comes from that takes years to unravel. And from the self-doubt that develops from doing concept art. So it takes a lot of love for games. It takes a lot of genuine love and passion for working with a team to stick with it and really make an impact on a game. Especially these days, if you go and work at those big studios, they shoot down a lot of your pieces, but like at the smaller studios, they'll put a lot more of that content in the game. Let's see. Did I see Billy Baxco's here? Billy, hey, there you are. Hey, what's up, brother? Hey, yes, I'm live streaming. You could probably guess why. Got some things in the works. So I got to get used to it. I got to get comfortable with it. And also I'm always telling my audience, like, hey man, like get out there and face the things that you might be uncomfortable doing. Right. And so I got to do it myself. Right. Yeah. Roman knows what I'm talking about. Reed Moore says, Trent, do you know Charlie Snogans? I do not know Charlie Snogans. I may have met somebody named Charlie Snogans. Is he brother of... No, I can't do it. I was going to make up a name, but I don't. Let's see. High Tier Gamer. Thank you, Trent. I appreciate your knowledge. Yeah, well, I don't know that it's knowledge, it's experience. I made games. I've been working in video games for a long time. I really don't know what to expect from doing live streaming. I anticipate a lot of questions about art. I anticipate a lot of questions about the, getting employment. I expect a lot of questions about those type of things, but I don't want to limit it to that. I want you guys to know that I'm not going to just stream about that type of stuff, but I would like to do a little bit of gaming here. I know that's not exactly, in line with what most of you are here for, but, it might be just fun to hang out more, especially right now. I found my social skills are in decline, and I need to keep up with those. I got a lot of my comic book bros are streaming again as well. And I used to do it a lot. I just stopped. And I stopped before YouTube even had streaming. So I didn't know about a lot of these things. I used to use OBS and all this other stuff. And now there's like StreamYard makes it so easy. It's super easy to use. And then it's easy to have guests on as well. So maybe I'll have some guests on here. That'd be really fun. Yeah. Andrew Taz says, Trent, did you see Kyle Ritter's colors on Matt's Snowman cover? I did, yes. I actually really like Kyle Ritter's colors. I think that he's pretty good. There's a specific kind of a comic book style, and what I'm trying to do with Creed is a little bit more of what you guys are used to seeing me do in my concept art and in my illustrations that you see in my art books and things like that, and what you've seen me do with Twilight Monk. I'm trying to bring that into the Creed universe. So like, man, if we can, blow this out of the water, if we can like make Creed, one of the top selling Indiegogo books, then Creed book 3 is going to be like fully painted, like all the bells and whistles. I want to go just nuts with like really give it my focus. I can't even imagine what it would be like if I could focus for a full year on 48 pages with like my team helping me. It would be just nutso, like probably just one of the most detailed painted comics. Have you guys ever seen a comic called Worm World? You should check that. You should check that out. It's fully painted. It's like on another level. That guy is also really incredible. I had found it through my friend Jason Brubaker's How to Draw Comics YouTube channel. If you're curious about drawing comics, check out Jason Brubaker's YouTube channel as well. Billy Baxco says, if Keed, I know you spelled it. Just giving you a hard time. If Creed goes big, does that mean more Twilight Monk too? Yeah, buddy, and other stuff. I really need Creed to blow up. I need Creed to do well, not just for me, but for the people that I employ. But also, yeah, I think I got ideas for Creed number 3 that I want to do. And I got ideas for a new Twilight Monk story that I want to do, but I also do have to wrap up that Ravenblade story that you guys probably saw if you've read the Twilight Monk comics. And then, I'd love to do a comic book version of this as well, but maybe simplify it a little bit so that it works as a comic and gets to the point a little bit faster. Because that's written for readers, but the characters in it, I think, are just really awesome. And yeah, certainly, like I'm all up for it. And then, of course, like I've got the Scrap Hunters universe that I want to delve into it a little bit more as well. Just cyborg hunting, kind of crazy sci-fi, cyberpunk type of stuff. Let's see. Jacob Wodowinski says, how many hours of personal time would you say you have on average as a professional? And this is different depending on where you're at in your career. If you're working in at a big game studio, man, it's tough to answer. It's different for everybody. Let's just say that working in games, you're going to do a lot of crunch. You're going to do a lot of overtime. If you don't know that, then you haven't been paying attention. It's going to be a lot. And you do that a lot through your 20s. Choosing the career of working in the video game industry in your 20s, I had no problem sacrificing dating or, social life. I mean, you'd find times to just get drunk and sing karaoke with your coworkers, but those are mostly the only people you ever meet because you're working so much. But, I seldom had to work on weekends at Capcom or Blizzard. But yeah, these days, because I basically retired a few years ago, retired a few years ago. And then I keep coming back to doing work because I can't not do work. I got to do stuff. I got to make things. I got to be busy. And that means making a lot of stuff. And so I find that I don't have a lot of personal time, but I also don't have kids. So I still have more than most people have in my line of work. So for me, yeah, I mean, I play a lot of games in the evenings and spend a lot of time with my wife. I work from home. Obviously I have for about 8 years now, 7 years now. So yeah, it's worked out pretty well for me in terms of work-life balance, but yeah, that's something that not everybody else who works in video games, even as a contractor, gets. Alfredo Hernandez says, has the pandemic affected you? Only psychologically. Pretty much, like in terms of work, nothing changed. Our business boomed because everybody sits around and plays video games now. And so, like I said, as I've been saying for years, there are lots of jobs for character skin artists and lots of contract art jobs for lots of different things. The only thing that's maybe happened is that some of our previous clients now, they have there are a lot more contractors that they can choose to work with, and a lot of other people that are going, well, I would just be independent, and a lot of people that have started their YouTube channels now, and I'm really grateful that my channel continues to grow, and I want to continue to create content for artists, to help you guys to develop a independent career or get employment. Let's see. Theris Nyart says, your wife draws too? Not professionally. I wanted to do an experiment with her, and I wanted to see if she'll do it. I don't know. I want to see if I can teach her to draw, like through my easy art lessons, because I designed those easy art lessons to be like for non-artists to learn to draw, to wrap your head around the fundamentals, What kind of games do you like, and why YouTube and not Twitch? What kind of games do I like? I like open world games. Playing Cyberpunk right now, and also Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Love it. Probably Cyberpunk. Yeah, I started playing on the PS4, but as you heard from my story earlier, I did get a PS5. My chair slowly sinks. You'll watch me start at the top of the screen, and then because I need a new chair. Anybody recommend a new chair? Send me a link. But anyway, so playing Assassin's Creed, but I don't like it when they're too much of a checklist. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is a nice big step, though. Like, they added in a lot of really cool features, like building up your own towns and like going back to the blacksmith, and like, you got a relationship with the characters from your town. You get recruited into this brotherhood kind of a thing, and like, so you've got to like there's side missions, a lot of side mission stories, and like you start to get used to seeing characters that are sort of developing a story, which is great. But I only play for like an hour or two a night. Yeah, and so probably the kind of games that I would want to stream, though, might just very well be like old PS1 games, because they're a little bit shorter, like these snappier. These new modern big open world games, man, some of them are just hundreds of hours, which I don't imagine is. I mean, it's fun if there's a lot of physics and things, but it does get to be a little bit of a grind. You know what I'm saying? But that could be a lot of fun. I don't know. The biggest thing is that I know, like I said, a lot of you guys are here for art related stuff, and I want to keep giving you more of what you're coming back to my channel for. I don't want to suddenly just go like, hey, it's a gaming channel. But I also realize like I want to do more gaming. Like I want to share that with the audience. I might do that on Twitch to keep it separated. And I think that a lot of you would agree. You might not want to, watch me go through Cyberpunk, and point out all the glitches. But the thing is like when I did some game streaming for Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PS1. And one of the things that was nice about it was like being able to stop. I don't play games the way most people play games. Like, I'll just walk around and look at the texture work and try to dissect how they did things, So that can be fun. Metro Exodus is a great open world game. Yeah, 100%. Hundo P's. I play Quake 3 with my girlfriend, and she is not the best at video games. I know what that's like. That's most of the time you're looking at their screen and it's like this. Spinning around. If they're bad with it. If they're bad with it. I had a friend of mine that was like that. It was we'd always try to get him to play GoldenEye with him, but every time he grabbed the controller, the screen would immediately just go straight to the sky. And he'd run around and just shoot him. He's just a sitting duck, and I feel bad for the guy. But he never got comfortable with it with GoldenEye. But even though there were times when we would like try to, I kind of pull my other buddy aside and I'd be like, dude, let's see if we can try to make him win. Like that'll be the challenge. Who can help him? Who can get killed by him the most? Because he was just pointing at the ceiling, so you'd have to find ways to like jump off of the higher level. There's some of the maps in GoldenEye where you could fall down. You'd have to try to like be above him because he'd always be shooting straight up. Anyway, it was a tough challenge, but you'd find ways to create new challenges with it. Okay, here's a good question. As a Tao says, how often does in real life historical examples of weapons or clothes and whatnot work its way into concept work? All video game concept art derives from reality in some way, at least in terms of the functional use. So when you go to museums and you analyze historical weapons that were created by more primitive historical societies or tribes or whatever, it's like you have to pay attention to like how they're constructed using the materials that they have. Everything in concept art is storytelling. Everything in concept art is storytelling. And what I mean by that is like if you play Diablo 3, and many of you will know what I'm talking about when I say this, but like when you play Diablo 3, there's something in there that you're not getting from some other games that are like it. And you might not be able to put your finger on what it is, but I can tell you what it is in the world, in the art, in the craftsmanship. It's not just the painted textures, although I think that adds something to it. It's the storytelling that you don't see. It's the subtle storytelling that you don't even realize you're seeing. It's the statue of the character that's written into the lore. It's not just a statue number 53 that you've seen on every, on the grid of the randomly generated dungeon. No. It's the character who was a hero to those people who lived in that region. It's the reason why that tunnel was flooded. It's the waterways that are subtly built into the rocky embankments and the sand dunes. It's like the storytelling is everything in concept art. And where does that storytelling come from? It comes from paying attention to the real world and to history. We work all of that in. I did. I don't know what will happen with Diablo 4. I'm not involved in any way with Diablo 4. I have no idea what to expect. I know that the style is less to my liking. And that's probably why I left as well. Or why we parted ways, the Diablo team and I. Andrew Taz says, what will it take to get you, Ethan, and Matt to do a triple threat wrestling match? I don't know, like a couple of bucks. Is there oil involved? It's not a good visual. Three-way wrestling match. I've been trying to talk those guys into a three-way for a while. No, I want to do a Snowman, Cyberfrog, Creed crossover. What do you think? Is Ethan streaming right now? Can you ask him what he thinks of that idea? I don't know. I've been trying, but Ethan won't return my calls, so I have no idea. I think we're friends. We'll find out. I'll find out tomorrow. Everybody wants to touch my Blizzard sword. This little guy? I don't even know. How can you even see that? Let me turn on my I'm going to put on the flashlight. That does nothing. That is not it. What about that? No, you can still barely see it. Today it's really hard to play MMO games. I love it, but it's hard. This time the time you need to improve yourself in what you want to be as an artist. Yeah, that's true. So at the beginning of the pandemic, my friend Marcus Luck and I started playing through Final Fantasy 14. And here's the sad part, dude. If you know anything about this, Final Fantasy 14, they had the Realm Reborn, which was a slog. I mean, it is a grind fest. You don't even know why you're doing these missions half of the time. We went through it, and then a week later, they truncated it. They cut it down to like a quarter of the time so that you can get to the Heavensward. I never got to Heavensward. I got to Heavensward, and I was so burned out from the grind that even during COVID, I was like, I'm done. I can't. Like, I'm just like tired of the grind. So MMOs, kind of out on MMOs. Also, I feel like they punish you for not playing with the monthly fee. But you know, if I were going to play an MMO, I'd probably play Final Fantasy Online. How about with Black Flag? Yo, here's another another little shout out. Check out Black Flag. It's a Indiegogo comic by Dan Fraga Boom, who is also helpful to me. He's helped me out. Gave me some advice on running an Indiegogo campaign, which I did not take, although I do appreciate his advice and his expertise. I have been reading some of the books that he recommended, though. And also, he's a tremendous artist. I've known him for also several years. Yeah, great guy. Good rapper, too, by the way. He's got an interesting mind. He'll rap while he's driving and live stream it. I'll tell you what, I'm coming up on 250,000 subscribers. I might have to do like a rap. I can't freestyle it, but maybe I'll write a rap for my 250,000 subscriber celebration. Got a super chat here from formerly Rod Line. Thanks for the super chat, bro. I did game art for almost 20 years, but I've been out for 10. I don't think I'd go back, but if I did, what skill should I knock the rust off of? Man, these days, great question. 3D. Specifically, I would get into ZBrush. If I were just getting into concept art right now, what the concept artist of the future needs to realize is you might not even need to know how to draw. If you're doing photorealistic stuff, learn 3D, learn how to kit bash, and learn how to every traditional artist and every real artist out there, like, no, I don't want to say real artist, that sounds terrible, but everybody who's like a purist artist is going to be cringing when I say this, but all that they're going to care about is that you do high level of detail efficiently and effectively. So imagine that you have a stage that's lit, right? You light that stage. Like, let's say you're working on a new gig, and that gig is God of War 2 or whatever. Like, okay, I'm gonna light this scene, and then I'm gonna model, and I'm gonna model a character or a monster in ZBrush in like a day. And then I'm going to drop that character into that scene. So the lighting, the secondary lighting is bouncing, the post-processing effects are in place, the texturing and the materials, all these things. I might even kit bash some like armor that I got from like another kit from another ZBrush website. I'm going to kit bash together all the gear and the armor to make this orc character. So all you're really spending time on is that like 1 or 2 days just detailing in ZBrush the face, not worried about poly count constrictions, not worried about technical restrictions or colors yet. You drop that into your pre-lit scene with the post-processing effects in place, and then you render that out, and then you do about an hour or 2 of touch-up in Photoshop, and that's the concept artist of the future. I'm sorry. It sucks. But that's just what I'm seeing. It's what I'm seeing is going to happen because that's what we're seeing from, what's the guy's name? Rafael Grassetti. He's a concept artist on God of War. That's how he's doing it. And honestly, it seems to me like that's really efficient. And the reason being, because they don't care how long it takes for you to get really high level results. What matters is that they have assets that they can put in the game. And if you look at the Unreal Engine 4, man, they don't have to optimize or retopo their models at all. They just drop it in. So it may have to be retopoed by a 3D modeler or somebody who's more, in that pipeline. But that's what I see. Now, that's for photorealistic games. But if you're getting back into concept art after that many years, you might want to consider just staying at small indie studios and doing more traditional digital painted stuff like there's a lot of people like what I do. And I think that honestly, that's a more fulfilling experience. And if you did it for 10 years, you'll know what I'm talking about. Those game studios can sometimes feel like a machine and you kind of feel like an assembly line guy. And I don't like that feeling. I like to feel that everything that I'm making is really impacting the game. So stick with smaller teams, stick with craftsmanship. A lot of people were saying the same kind of stuff when I was at Blizzard, and then we were defying that by still doing old school type of stuff. And if you look at World of Warcraft, they're not exactly breaking the mold in terms of like new inventive ways of development, but their game still has a huge number of players. So, indie game studios, smaller game dev teams don't necessarily need to do that. But if you're going for like the big AAA high end, God of War type studios, Sony Santa Monica, if you're looking at those studios, yeah, you got to do like ZBrush and stuff. Okay, we got another super chat from Priscilla Muniz. How about a gaming breakdown on how different aspects are created by software and or artist roles? So I did a video about this called those other jobs in the game industry. Check that out. Maybe after this stream. We're going to wrap this up pretty soon. It's 2.5 hours. So go right into that video after this and maybe bookmark it. But let's see. Gaming breakdown on how different aspects are created by software and or artist roles. It's too complex of a question, but I'll try to do a quick summary. For artists specifically. So animators are mostly using, so I'm not an animator, but when I was working on Diablo 3, they were mostly working with Maya. So they'd work with rigs that were working in Maya. And yeah, these days, if you're doing indie stuff, you can actually get a Rig Pro. If you're using like Blender, Auto Rig Pro, which will rig your character to work with Unreal Engine or Unity Engine. So something like that. For animators. For concept artists, you're not, working with 3D as much, but, you might have to be working with something like ZBrush. And I knew guys that worked on Diablo even that would do their 3D models for their concept in ZBrush, and then they would retopo in something like 3D Coat. So you might use something like that or that pipeline, but ultimately it still gets dropped into Photoshop for the final texture work. Although nowadays, a lot of people are using PBR, which is a physics-based rendering. I believe I got that correct. And I don't do this, but it's not my field of expertise, but they'll use mostly textures that are pre-created and then place them on the surfaces of models, pre-designated surfaces on models. So you might have something like that. And especially if you're getting into ZBrush modeling for concept art, it's something you're going to want to look into or at least be familiar with. There's also Mudbox for 3D rendering. And when I'm talking about 3D rendering, 3D modeling, I'm also talking about using a Wacom, and like you're literally using as if you're painting, the pen pressure determines how much you're digging into the sculpture. So it almost feels more like you're sculpting into clay than like you're painting digitally or anything like that. And this is a very broad topic, by the way. And so forgive me if I'm leaving lots and lots of information out. There's technical artists that are usually bridging that gap between the technology and the art. So technical artists need to be very art savvy, but then also be able to work with programming in some cases to be able to create tools and functions that get unique and unexpected, or not unexpected, but like innovative results. So like they may have to figure out, for instance, like a way to have what is normally static armor pieces that can't move. They need to figure out a way to make that actually animate and move. And so like that becomes extremely technical. And I don't recommend getting into that unless that you've already mastered something else. Most tech artists came from doing, 3D modeling or animating. So it's usually, or from the programming side, and they yet had an inclination towards art, which is a very unique breed of individual, a very unique breed of game developer. As far as the different artist roles, art directors just have to have confidence. That's about it. No, I'm just kidding. Good art directing requires a lot of people skills. It requires understanding of people skills, psychological, social skills, more than even art skills, although some people would argue with me on that. But like, I've worked with people who are like, hey, I can paint better than the art director, so I should be art director. And it's like, it's not, that's not how that works, brother. You got to have social skills. You got to have leadership skills. You have to have good communication skills, and you have to know how to get the best performance out of everybody on the team. So like leads, I think, are generally tend to be undervalued. So, I mean, there's a lot more to it. Of course, user interface and concept art, obviously, everybody, the standard is to use a Wacom tablet on a PC, which I do not like. I use a Mac. And they'll use a Cintiq or a Wacom tablet, and they'll use Photoshop. That's generally the 99% of the time, that's what they're using in most game studios for video game development. Again, if you want to just do Instagram art or something like that, you don't need to use those tools. Androtas says, Trent, I'm just glad to see you making moves. I'm making... What kind of moves we talking? I'm always making moves, man. I've been making books nonstop. I never stopped. So when everybody says, hey, you're coming back to making books, I never stopped. But I can't put you on the screen if you're going to boo my Mac. Don't do that. My Mac might see you. Let's see. Let's read some more comments here. And we'll do just a couple more questions. Here we go. Why don't you like PC, or is it just a preference? Okay, so my experience was I ran into constant breakdown on my PC. And when you've got a client that needs something in an hour, you can't be waiting for your PC to update. Now, Mac has only done that to me once in the last 10 years. And it was a security issue. So my preference for Mac is because I have a MacBook Pro that I plug into a bigger screen. So I have like a 28-inch screen off to my side. I have my MacBook. It's usually reliable. I pop it open, and whatever I was working on last is right there. It's ready to go. It generally organizes programs really effectively. I do not like the file management system as much, but I've gotten so used to it now after a decade. It's my preference. It's become my preference now, even though I remember how efficient Windows was with that. But the thing was, my Windows was just always breaking down constantly. And then I always had to upgrade the graphics card. And one of the things I learned was to just not mix gaming on the same computer as your work computer. So I just prefer more reliable tools, and Mac has been very, very reliable for me. Anyone else listening while at work? I'm listening while I'm at work. Yes, that's what I'm doing. Okay, here we go. This is probably the question of a lifetime. Alongkrit Sharma says, is it better to become an independent artist or get into the concept art illustration? Essentially, is it better to be independent, or is it better to go and work at an employer? And this will be the last question. I'm going to close up after this one because my back hurts. I need to stretch. I have to walk every 2 hours. Stiff. Okay, so to answer the question, that's going to depend on your personality type. Some people never want to get involved in business or marketing. They don't want to deal with people. They don't want to deal with having to talk to people online. Some people are like that, and I get that. It's like it's a developed skill, and for some people, it just might not suit your personality. But it's an essential part of going independent. You can't go independent without having good, at least halfway decent social skills or social media or business presence or business understanding. So I think it's something that has a lot more rewards. So it's why I'm going that direction. But I don't know that I would be able to look back on so many years with so much pride if I had not gone to work at the game studios that I've gone to work at. And I was very fortunate that I went to Blizzard when there were only 60 game developers there. Now it's like 600. I was very fortunate to go to Riot Games when there were only 25 or 30 game development artists. It was very small, maybe 40. I was very fortunate to be at Capcom Studio 8 when it was only like 15 artists. Those were great, tremendous experiences for learning. I don't think I would ever want to go and work at a studio, and some people are going to hate that I'm saying this, but like I don't think I would ever want to go and work at a studio with 300 artists. I don't feel that I could ever make a significant or substantial contribution. But for the time that I did work at those smaller studios that became big, I'm very grateful for those experiences, not just for the friendships that I developed, but the skills that I developed and the understanding of how to make games. Now I can literally make my own games entirely on my own. I've proven it. I made an indie game called Aikida last year. And it was a tremendous experience. It's like one of the things that I'm most proud of in my life, even though it wasn't necessarily profitable, but I'm proud of it. And so you go to work at a studio so that you can learn, and you can learn about people, and you can learn about the process of development. You can hone your craft. You can develop your skills. You can really, I guess, find out what you really want. Because a lot of times you get there and you realize it's not what I wanted. And that was what happened to me. And that's where I'm at now, where I'm sort of like, I know that I like working independently. I don't like working at an in-game studio. It would take, like, they'd have to pay me $2 kajillion because, like I said, I got my Apple Juice empire, paying the bills. But they'd have to pay me like $2 billion a year to go and sit at an office desk, a kiosk, and submit ideas to a group of people. Now, I don't care if they submit my ideas to a group of people because I'm working from home. I spend a lot of time with my wife. I get to choose my vacation time, but I don't make money when I'm not working. I get to have a relationship with the audience. When I was at Blizzard, for instance, I wasn't allowed to have a YouTube channel. I wasn't allowed to talk with you guys. I wasn't allowed to without permission. And I don't like that, I don't like that constriction, but it is a valuable part of the experience of developing your career. One more thing I did want to, where did you hear that? I have no comment. I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow. Yeah, Sean. Hey, man, you do still. Sean, I run into him at the Pete's all the time down the road. Good to see you around here, bud. So I think, you know what? I do want to say thank you guys so much for stopping by. It's funny. We just got a big spike in viewers right as I'm about to wind down. Dudes, I'm sorry. I got to get going. I got to stretch a little bit. I got an old man back, and I just started lifting weights again. Man, working the back after not working the back for like a year, it hurts, bro. So I'm going to take a little break, and you might see me streaming a little bit more soonish, sooner than you might realize. And until next time, dudes, I want to thank you so much for stopping by. And obviously I've got videos coming up on every Wednesday, but I got a lot of comic book videos coming up. Big things happening with the Creed book on Indiegogo. News coming in. It's beyond my control, but it's going to happen hopefully very, very soon. And I'm going to be here with a lot more Creed content, a lot more comic book tutorial content, and a lot more just answering questions. Again, thanks so much. You guys made it such a great stream, and I appreciate all your questions, and especially all the super chats. Totally new for me, new experience. But I'm going to give myself a platinum trophy for this one. Maybe like a bronze trophy. I'm talking about, it's a PlayStation reference. So dudes, thanks. All right. Ciao.